Fire away.
All right. What's going on there, Joe? From ArtAlien. I just wanted to get you on here because it's been a while, and we were trying to get you on the last broadcast. That didn't work. Yeah. Technical difficulties for whatever reason. But I told everybody I'd get you either on a Skype session or we'll get you, on the broadcast one way or the other. We're going to have you on there. So what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, great. Oh, it's all been kicking off at this end. Glad to make it this time. We got Skype working nicely, so that's great. Oh yeah, and I did watch the show, by the way, which was awesome. And I watched the live show the last couple of hours, and then I went back and watched the recording because I missed the first part of the show. Mm-hmm. And it was great. I thought it was very dynamic, clear, some very good points made actually. Also, over here today, it's been pretty crazy because the TV show I was on, which I did a few months back, was actually broadcast earlier today.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Which will hopefully be up on some channel somewhere on YouTube, which I can link to and people can watch it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, it was actually really good. I won't go on about it too much because obviously people can watch it when it comes up. But yeah, it was actually very well balanced for a Channel 5 show, I thought, and it showed us researchers in quite good light and was very polite about us and didn't take the mickey out of us too much. And there was a whole bunch of stories. There was Rendlesham Forest and incident from the 1980, and there was I did a whole section on Comet 67P, and there was a few other stories about some guy in Scotland that got attacked by a UFO and all this stuff, some crazy stuff. It was really interesting, and he had some really cool people on there, Stanton Friedman, and also Nick Pope was on there, the guy from the UK, and a whole bunch of other guys. They had some guy chatting about pareidolia, some doctor. They actually had a psychoanalyst kind of doctor dude on there who was going on about, oh yeah, well, these conspiracy theorists, they don't want to feel alone in the universe, and the reason why they want to believe in aliens is because they don't want to feel alone, and all this sort of stuff, which I thought was nonsense.
Absolutely rubbish, yeah.
But we had the last word at the end of the show, which was good. So it left it nice and open-ended, and it didn't try to completely debunk everything, although they had a balanced side to each argument, and it was really cool. So I was quite pleased with it. I was expecting to be completely edited out down to about 2 minutes, but I had about 10 minutes on there, which was quite good.
Yeah, it is, and it gives you a good argument, or at least last comment you want to throw in, so on and so forth. That's good.
And I was quite pleased because they actually used the whole part of one of my videos. I think it was the Comet 67P Charon UFO video I think I did a while back, and they just took a bunch of that, and it had my logo on the screen as well. I thought, wow, they've left my logo in there. So I was quite pleased about that. Yeah, thank you. But I did say to them, I said, look, you're not paying me. They just paid my expenses. I had to go all the way to London on the train, on the tube, all that kind of thing. It was a long journey from here, and it was quite a stressful day, and it was a bit of a rush and all that. But it turned out really well, so I was really pleased. And the wife was sat here with me watching it, and all my friends have been watching it, and they've all been on Facebook going crazy and stuff.
I've seen that. I actually saw that today, and people were like, hey, dude, it was actually a good show.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought I was going to be made to look like a bit of an idiot, but it turned out really well.
Yeah, usually that's not the case. Usually they try to bash you and make you look like a
like and the thing is with Channel 5, they do have a bit of a reputation for doing that with people. Real trashy kind of TV shows, But this was really good. It was like sort of ancient aliens kind of stuff. There's UFOs and all sorts of good stuff going on. And it was a really well put together show. They had CGI in it. They had loads of old footage from the Cold War and stuff like that, and loads of old UFO clips, and it was great. I thought it was really done well. It's one of the best I've seen. I was really, really chuffed with it, actually.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice to be a part of it, and hopefully everyone will get to see that soon when it's up on YouTube, if they don't track it down and shut the thing down. Hopefully not,
Well, is it possible that they'll have it on Channel 5's own site?
Oh yeah, they will. I'll put a link up to that. But
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you could do that, and everybody can go ahead and look at it that way too.
I'll do it that way, and I don't know how long it will be up on their site for. Maybe a couple of weeks at least, anyway. Mm-hmm. But it's likely that someone that I may know vaguely over here is going to put it up on their channel anyway, and I can do that also. So that's all good. So it's all going well this end, really.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, now I love stuff like that, so I can't wait to check it out myself. I was actually going to get on there because I've got the ability to watch all the other channels in Europe and all these other countries, so I can do that. But by then, I think it was like 2 hours after. It was like 10 o'clock somewhere around there, or it was somewhere around 1-ish my time. And I'm saying, oh, there's no way. There's just, I forget what it was, but it was like 2 hours after the fact, so there's just no way. I was like, I don't know how long the show was, but I probably missed it.
It's just under an hour, about 55 minutes or so.
I definitely.
But it may well end up being aired in the US. I think maybe on like the History Channel or Discovery Channel, one of those types of channels. Anyway, hopefully, they are hoping for that. So it's a whole series about conspiracies and stuff. This was the last of the 6 6-part series. So I'm hoping it ends up on one of them, and if it does, then obviously you'll all get to see it anyway over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Just run and run. So I'll keep everyone informed about that and let everyone know if I find out. But that was good. But I did enjoy your recent video that the one you just put up about a couple of hours ago, maybe an hour or so ago. The Pluto video you done with some close-ups of the ground.
Yeah.
That was insane. That city structure that you showed.
I'm not sure what the heck to call it, to be honest with you, but according to NASA, it's approximately 50 miles.
Yeah.
I think it was a 50-mile scale that they showed, and I'm going, okay, it's obviously not one structure. It has to be many. And because you're so far away, the distance, an extra amount of feet or miles, there's just no way you'd see these tiny little details, just kind of like another one I just did. I'm uploading as we speak. So, the people, I'm trying to get people to really start to recognize what they're doing and that they can do this, because there's plenty of people. I'm sure you got your own subs, mine. You look at all the other people that are doing these videos. They've got hardcore subscribers that are all over these things. So that's the idea, is to try to get Joe Public, excuse the pun, Joe Public to actually go, you know what? Hell, I'm going to get Photoshop, and I want to look into this myself. That's the whole point of my videos, and I'm sure that's the way you want to do it.
Exactly.
Get the word out, and that's what it's all about. It's a group of people just trying to get the truth. That's
I've got a lot of people now who are getting into this pretty hardcore now.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put a video up, they're into it, and they download the image and they look at it themselves.
Oh, they're shredded.
And they go straight in there and say, dark, play with the contrast, try this, try that, and I'm sure a lot of these guys are watching your videos as well. A lot of them are probably subscribed to you as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we've got our slightly different way of doing things, but if you put the two together, you've got quite a powerful set of skills there. I think when you with your sort of groundwork that you do, the way you kind of bring the stuff out and reveal previously hidden objects is really cool. And people, this is what it's all about. This is all about teaching people how to see through the veil of secrecy that we get. It's
a different aspects, like you're saying. I mean, it's as a collective, like you said, you got your way of doing it, my way. Everybody's got their own way, so on and so forth. But the bottom line is, they're showing things that should not belong there. I don't care if it's Mars, Pluto, the moon. I don't care what body it is. If people go, you know what, I watched this guy's video and he showed something totally different from what this guy showed in his video, but guess what? Both of them showed things that don't belong there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. The ultimate bottom line is, what's this stuff doing there? So I know there's other things you probably wanted to talk about too during the broadcast. I don't know if there's anything specific or anything else, because I know you were trying to get on so bad. I was going, I've got to get him on there. He's trying like hell to get on there. So I was doing what I could to everything to get you on it. Just
that's crazy.
Happening.
I tried everything, but I wasn't even getting your invites. Maybe it was because you were already in a live show that it wasn't working. Had I joined at the right time at the start, I think it would have been fine, actually. I think that's what it was.
It's a possibility, but who knows? I mean, one way or the other, I said I'm going to get him on there. I don't care.
Yeah, I was trying everything this end. It was crazy. But yeah, it was a great show. And I look forward to the next one. Hopefully it'll be on the day I can make it and I can join in to the next one with all of you. That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, as usual, some very good points were made about the image obfuscation, and also the fact that I think Billy mentioned that us anomaly hunter channels are kind of being used as a buffer for NASA, so that they can offload any criticism onto us, or we get the criticism instead of them, because we're a direct kind of middleman in a way, kind of a direct link between the public and the officials. Mm-hmm. And even though we do criticize NASA a lot because they do silly things with these images, and they spoil the images basically, and they don't give us the real stuff. In a way, we are kind of supporting NASA because we're increasing the interest in these various projects that they're up to at the moment, and we're also encouraging new people to get into it as well, and probably in a little bit more of an accessible way than NASA do it, you know.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the NASA videos that they put up, we actually get a lot more hits than they do.
Oh, yeah, I know. I noticed that. I'm going, what the hell? You go on any of the photos or the videos that are short, and they've got hardly any that go to Facebook or Twitter.
People are coming to us first by the looks of it, you know, and then they're going to maybe to see their video after or something. But let's go. I mean, people need to think in a critical way about what they're being told, and about these images, and what they're being told about the atmosphere or the conditions on these planetary bodies, because I really do think that we are being lied to about some very crucial details here about atmospheric pressure, and whether there are breathable gases on these planets or not, and the amount of water and liquid water, that kind of thing. As we were saying when we were chatting the other night, I mean, this is becoming increasingly obvious, and there's been a lot of people commenting on my videos, my recent 2 or 3 Pluto videos, saying that it looks like there are structures wherever we go, and they seem to be on a massive scale, much bigger than we could build. Mm-hmm. Like you see on the moon, some of the things on Mars are huge. Some of these structures are so enormous they could not possibly have been built by us.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it looks like the technology or the architecture that's put into it is just insane. Like that one I just did, I'm going, what the hell is that? I mean, it's just it looks immense, first of all, and there's many structures in there. You just can't see every thousand of them. I'm sure there's thousands of them in that area.
These are seeing the larger ones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, and we've said this in the broadcast. I mean, if you think about it, there has been life or intelligent life all throughout the solar system, and then some.
Yeah,
outside the. I mean, it's just everywhere, and I think they're finding this out, and they're going, you know what? We haven't explored Pluto yet. Go. We haven't done this planet yet. Go. We haven't done this moon yet. Go. And they're trying. Why the big bum rush to go to 67p? It's a freaking rock. Now they're saying there could be organics, carbon life forms on it.
Microbes.
Imagine that. Now, what are we made out of? We're made of star stuff. We're made of carbon. We are carbon life forms. We are from the stars.
Yeah.
Why is it such a big surprise? Suddenly now, like I said, it's like they're doing it very slow steps. First of all, there might have been some little water on Mars. Now there's, wait a minute. Now there is water on Mars. In fact, I just showed a picture of, they showed like the inside of a Newton crater. Yeah. Where they showed the whole, of course it was more of a artist rendition than anything, but it showed like the side of it, and then it showed the actual picture, and it showed actually water streaming down inside this wall of this comet. I'm thinking comets now, of the actual crater. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, now they're saying, well, now there's water throughout the solar system. Now there's, there could be microbial life on the 67P. I'm going, how the hell? And it might be carbon based. Whoa. Yeah. Hold on. So, this is what I'm saying. It's just, and it's like this big urge to suddenly go out to every body they can get a hold of. Why would they do that?
I have noticed
curiosity, but damn.
I have noticed this a lot, especially in the last 6 months. But it's been building up to it, and I think because there's been a lot of, we had 67P. That was the big story, kind of last year, really, sort of end of last year, and there's been some big finds on Mars. We're pulling up all sorts of crazy stuff on Mars, and I think there has been a slight change of policy up top somewhere. Whoever's pulling the strings, don't know who they are, and certainly in this country, we're getting stories about Mars and about all these planets every day, and all the newspapers are going nuts for this stuff.
Yep,
absolutely. I don't know if it's the same your side, but we're getting this in every newspaper, and they're not getting front page, but sometimes they are. These stories are really hitting big, And if you go on any of the newspaper websites, which I do kind of check out because I've had a few stories in them recently, and guess whose stories get the most comments? Mars, Pluto.
I was going to say probably the basics, the most hot ones right now.
Mars especially. I mean, you go on the HuffPost site or the Daily Mail site or any other, the Guardian. They run a story on Mars and they have to shut the comments down because they get overrun. They cannot cope with it.
No.
So people are.
They'll jam the server in a hurry.
Yeah, they cannot cope with the amount of people trying to comment. So it's obviously a very popular subject, and of course a lot of people go on there just to take the mickey out of us and other researchers. But there is genuine interest there, and people are fascinated by these things. And I really do think there has been a change of policy somewhere up above. In some guy in a suit somewhere has decided that they're going to push we're possibly finding signs of life, everywhere we go, sort of idea, and it's not just Mars, but everywhere we go.
I think they're prepping the public.
Yeah, and I think this is drip feed disclosure we're getting here.
Exactly. I mean, it's just a slow kind of disclosure. They're doing it to desensitize everybody to it. Yeah. In the event that it actually does pop out, meaning somebody really finds the truth or lets the cat out of the bag. I think it's just I mean, it's coming to a head now. How long it's going to take to do that? I think the more everybody puts pressure on this, the better it is. Like you said, I mean, look, if you listen to Billy when he said it, he said he sent letters to NASA, and they come right out and said, do what you want. I mean, if that's what you're seeing, go ahead and feel free to share it.
Yeah.
And it's like, somebody asked me that, what would happen if you showed a certain picture, and what do you think NASA would do to you? It's not a thing. We're their pawns.
Yes.
That's what we are.
I think we're kind of that get-out clause, really. Because if things go, maybe if one of us discovers something that is absolutely crystal clear and indisputable, then they might just say, well, okay, this guy's found this or this girl's found that, and it kind of lets them off the hook a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if they were just to walk out and say, oh, by the way, we've been lying for the last 50 or 60 years about the moon and about Mars and everything else, then they would look pretty stupid, and people would say, well, why didn't you tell us before?
Yeah.
I think this is the only way they can do it and save face, to be honest.
Well,
if you think about it.
I mean, yeah, I'm the same way. I look at it and I just go, like when they showed the earlier photos of Pluto, they look CGI'd. And there's people on videos right now saying it's false, it's fake, so on and so forth. And like I said, I mean, even if the camera was a 1.6 megapixel, it's supposed to be, like I said, it's supposed to be high res. It's just, it's like, why do people, this is what I don't get. They automatically go, well, because it looks like it's CGI, it's got to be trash, it's not real.
If it was CGI, it would be better quality.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, why don't they get this idea that it's possible that they're not showing good detail for a reason? Mm. And then on top of that, they're putting a CGI, which makes it, I mean, I don't know about you. Before the more they start to put these CGI on there, or just overlay it, so to speak, or they're stacking the photos, or whatever they're doing to them, what's crazy about it is they look fake. The videos, and I mean, it's like when you go back to the face in Cydonia.
Yeah. That
one there was black and white, but you can see it was airbrushed. If you really take a look at that picture. But then you look at this, well, now the new face, what it was the angle of the sun and the shadowing, and it made it look like that was a total big piece of shit CGI if I have ever seen one.
Yeah, that was terrible.
It was absolutely horrible. I'll tell you what I like, too. Speaking of which, I love the piece you did on about, and I said this myself. In fact, we were on the broadcast talking about, is it possible that we did something to Mars? And then you just did a clip about Clyde.
Clyde's on that.
Yeah.
The guy who discovered Pluto.
Right. He actually, he discovered Pluto, but he also seen this explosion in the 1940s on Mars.
1941.
And so I'm going, okay, so now this is what's goofy. I said this before. Now, and I think you said something and you were right. You were pretty much spot on, is when they were actually designing the atom bomb. They were making these bombs and making them as, trying to see how, they would detonate them in deserts and so on and so forth. And I'm going, how ironic. Wouldn't it be really odd if they designed it purposely to hit Mars? And not because of what's Earth-based? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's getting hugely speculative, but the point is, it's like, wouldn't that be just really weird to do that? Just go, shh. It's not like you're going to orbit the Mars. Just get it on a trajectory and just let it hit it, and whatever happens to anybody that's on that planet, oh well.
It is possible to send a missile. It's purely
speculative, but I mean, is it possible?
I mean, I think now the problem with this is, I mean, obviously the guy died in '97, Clyde Tombaugh, the guy who discovered Pluto.
Yeah.
And now, what I really like about what NASA's doing now with this mission to Pluto is they've got his ashes in a little tin in this probe, and they're gonna shoot them out of this probe over at Pluto when they get close to it. And it's taken them like 9.5 years to get there. I thought that was really cool because he's probably one of the greatest astronomers who's ever lived, really, and has really found so much stuff. And but that story about him seeing an explosion on Mars in 1941 only came up very recently.
Yep.
Someone put this stuff up onto Wikipedia.
Yep.
And I was just doing some research, and I had a Google alert, and it just kind of popped up a few months ago. And I thought, wow, this actually ties in with what we're looking and what we're seeing on the ground in Gale Crater on Mars, because we have all this debris smashed everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah.
Smashed buildings, smashed stone blocks, and broken statues, and all sorts of stuff just lying around. And it tallies with it. And there's also the guy called Dr. John Brandenburg, who says that he thinks there was a nuclear war on Mars. And then now this story came out before I discovered that Clyde Tombaugh had seen this explosion. Now, Brandenburg doesn't know when this potential war actually happened on Mars. He's just saying that there's lots of radioactive isotopes in the upper atmosphere.
Yeah.
Which
if you notice too, they had that a while back. They showed like two big areas that they were registering this, he
reckons there were two.
Yeah. Yep. There were two large areas that were actually had this fallout, so to speak, or this radioactive areas. And I'm thinking to myself, isn't that ironic? I mean, think about it. How long does nuclear fallout take to dissipate? A nuclear area. If you go back to like, anything, 3 Mile Island. Go to anything. And how long does it take before, you're thinking 50, 60 years before it's somewhat safe? I'm not saying you can run around and eat the dirt and everything else, but things start to grow back. Yeah,
if you look at Chernobyl now, in fact, apart from the immediate area and certain parts where the cesium kind of fell down onto the ground, the wildlife there has gone crazy.
Yep.
It's all grown back, and the wildlife's just taken over. So. And there are still one or two people living near Chernobyl as well who refuse to leave. There's this old lady who's about 4 foot nothing tall, and she lives there on her own, and she's about 85 years old.
Yeah.
And she lives in this little wooden hut, It's crazy. And she's perfectly okay. She's perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
So, the thing is with radiation, it's very specific, and if you're not in the immediate blast zone, and you're outside a certain area,
right. You're not in the dense part of it, right?
Yeah, so it's very specific on distance and that kind of thing, and it obviously depends on the terrain and how the cesium is spread over the ground and what the weather was, whether it rained or not, or that kind of thing at the time. I mean, we actually had some fallout in the UK here, just in parts where the rain clouds just came all the way over from that part of the world. They came over from Russia and over Belarus, and they came straight across Europe. And it rained in parts of the southwest and in Wales, and we had to shut down a lot of farms here because we had radioactive sheep and stuff, So but some areas had it, and some areas had absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So it all depended on the actual weather and whether you got that certain rainfall at a certain time. So there were farms over here which were probably okay, and just a mile away they were shut down.
Yeah. So. I mean, it just depends on, like you said, it depends on the rain, the precipitation, whatever it is that's dropping it from the sky, and it makes you wonder. You go, okay, it really does coincide with what we're finding on on Mars. I mean, some areas are completely fine. It's almost like whatever was out of the blast zone, obviously, is perfectly fine. And then you got areas that look like shit's been scattered everywhere, been blown to pieces.
Yeah.
And then this guy, and I read this a while back before you even put that on there. I heard about that. Somebody had seen an explosion years ago in 1940s. I said early, I think I said early 1940s. And it was. And so then you go, okay, this guy sees an explosion. We're seeing stuff that looks like it's totally obliterated. Gee, that's pretty wild shit.
Yeah.
And then when you see...
And it ties in with what Brandenburg's saying about the fallout in the atmosphere.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's not too far-fetched to believe that these guys are onto something. When you think of ESA, NASA, all these guys want to go to the... There's a reason for it, and I keep telling people that. It's like, they're not going to make all of these... And this is just some of it. That's just the Mars Exploration Family Portrait is showing. It's showing X amount of satellites. Well, those are the ones that either A, made it, they're still functioning today, and the ones that crashed or just went right by the planet, totally missed it like a dead stick. So... Again, there's this big bum rush to go to Mars for a cold, dead, barren planet. Nothing there to see, guys, but yet, hey, you know what? Let's go spend billions and trillions to get up there to see absolutely nothing. We want to see rocks just like NASA does.
Yeah.
Come on. Listen, it's like in everyday life. You're not going to go out and spend a pretty penny on something you know it's going to be totally useless to you.
Exactly. The thing is with the surface, the thing is, we didn't have a workable atom bomb until probably a bit later than 1941. So if it was an atomic explosion on Mars, or two, perhaps, then it wasn't us.
Well, publicly known.
But,
you know what I mean?
This is a big but. There are some people that do think the Nazis actually had an atom bomb before we did.
Yep.
But they didn't use it, although they apparently did test one.
Mm-hmm.
And the first bomb we dropped in Japan was actually a German bomb. It wasn't one of ours, because that particular bomb was not tested. So they just had a bomb, which they kind of turned up from nowhere, and basically there was apparently a U-boat that was carried a load of this radioactive material, fissile material from Germany. And part of the deal with that the Nazis made with the Allies was, if you let some of our top Nazis go, we will give you all this stuff, and then you can drop it on Japan. Mm-hmm. So we said, okay, we'll have that. So they basically shipped a load of this stuff over from Germany, which then turned up in the US. And then just after it turned up in the US, this U-boat was captured. The turnover of radioactive material, I think uranium, enriched uranium that the Americans had in Manhattan Project, doubled overnight. So they obviously got a load of enriched uranium from the Germans. Yeah. Now, whether the actual bomb itself was made in Germany is kind of irrelevant. The design was German, and a lot of the material inside that bomb was German. So, but I don't think they really had a workable bomb in 1941. So if there was a nuclear attack on Mars, it was somebody else. And now it may have been the Martians themselves, perhaps, if there were still any around then. I don't know.
Well, the real cool part about it is when you start to look at these. A lot of people say, well, we've never been on the moon as far as the United States. Well, man's never set foot. There's never been any landers. Well, here's the crazy part. Even if you don't believe that, Russia has. And when you look at, I think I'm going to probably murder the name of this, the Lutnikhod, this rover, and look at the rover. How ironic.
Looks very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. When you look at this rover, it looks a lot like some kind of design that we have today.
It does. It looks quite
and you can see the little scoop right here in the front of it. And it was done before we did. And here's the thing, they had their own rovers. Now here's the other thing. They've had more than one probe there. They've had multiple probes. So, I mean, come on. I mean, they've been there. In fact, they have kind of low-res pictures, but nonetheless, they are of the moon. So, so now let me guess. United States is lying. Russia's lying that they've been to the moon. Everybody's lying suddenly? Yeah, come on, man. I don't believe that. You know, these people out there, oh, the moon's not real. We've never been to the moon. Oh my God, it's. You know, I keep telling people, I don't know why these people who claim this stuff, I don't know why they just, they're saying this is fake, that's fake, the earth is flat, this, that, and the other. I'm going, well, then nothing's real. Just punch yourself in the face, see if it hurts. I mean, it's just like, when does it stop? When is it, I mean, what's your take on stuff like that, like the flat earth and stuff like that?
Oh, I had a guy the other day, he left a comment on one of my videos, and he said pretty much what you were just saying there, that these guys come out with. We've never left low Earth orbit. We've never been to the moon. There's a glass dome over the Earth or something. Yeah. And all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow. I mean, and then I thought, I can't remember whether I replied or not. I just thought to myself, well, if he thinks that none of this stuff is real, and the last thing he said was everything on the web is BS.
When does it stop?
And I thought, well, you're using the internet to communicate with me on my channel and telling me that we've never been to the Mars, never been to the moon, even though there's millions and millions of images of these places we've been to. And when I say millions, I mean millions when you put them all together. But this guy is saying that everything on the internet is bullshit, basically. And I'm thinking, well, by definition, then, what you've just said is bullshit. No. Well, because
yeah. I mean,
you just use the internet
to
do that. So, I mean, it's like, well, what can you say? These people are determined to believe this stuff, and they don't do any homework.
Well, and that's what it comes down to. I think it's just plain ignorance, because if they had done their homework, because here's the thing. You get these people saying, like I said, about the flat Earth. It's like, I had the guy... he still pokes me every now and then, gives me these starts talking really nasty and stuff, and I just tell him, I go, look, please shut your suck hole. Show me the proof of this dome. I don't want to hear about how you dance around the question. I don't want to know about NASA lies. We already know that. You're not telling us anything new. We don't want to hear about how we live in a fantasy world. Show me. Well, we can't, because if you try to go to Antarctica, it's off limits as far as flight. Saying, huh? Yeah, you're not allowed. It's a no-fly zone. Okay. Let's suppose for a moment it is absolutely true. If you have a flat Earth and you've got a dome over it, does it matter what direction you fly in to hit it? Shouldn't matter, right? No. I should be able to go to the east, go to the west, and I'm going to ram into that damn thing. Totally senseless. Totally doesn't make sense. And they say, well, can you fall off the edge of the Earth? No, there's like 2 miles of like ice, like on the very edge. Really? Please prove that. And they won't do it. They'll dance around the question every single bloody time.
They can't come up with any evidence. That's the thing.
No, they won't. And they come up with every asinine thing to try to either A, get the spotlight off them, because they know they're going, how do I answer this? Or they'll make up something that, yeah, well, unfortunately, it's NASA this, or the law doesn't allow you to go check this. I'm going, wow, really? I don't know. It's like it's getting to the point everything's fake. Everything's fake. Like you just said, the guy with the internet. All the people say, well, science sucks. Well, then tell you what. Go throw your microwave out. Go throw your computer in the garbage. Go throw your TV out. Anything that's got to do with electronic, just toss it out the window, because it's all fake. None of it's real. Yeah. You're living in the Matrix. Ooh. So,
they don't understand. They don't understand digital technology, and maybe some of this digital technology is reverse engineered from UFO crashes or stuff like Roswell, perhaps. I mean, there are rumors about this. The integrated chip and Velcro even was supposed to have come from Skinny Bob. That guy Skinny Bob that they kept in an Air Force base over there for a few years. He had this little skimpy suit on with Velcro attachments on it, and they thought, oh, that's a good idea, we'll copy that. And I mean, whether that's true or not, I don't know. We can't possibly verify that, but there are many things that we have now which are a direct result of at least from the space program.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of the things we may have may also be a direct result of reverse engineered alien technology that's crashed or shot down.
Yeah, there was several things. There was supposed to be what else is supposed to be fiber optics.
Fiber optics, yeah.
Was supposed to be supposedly. Now there's no way of proving that, but said it was said to be from like a UFO or something like that. Now,
if you look at all the patents that came out in 1947, a whole load of new ideas just came out from nowhere, really. And incidentally, they were all shortly after Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And if you also look at the FBI, the CIA, and all the other organizations you have, including NASA, they all formed in 1947 as well. So 1947 is a very crucial date when it comes to not only organizations forming, but also a lot of inventions and new patents came out that year, which are now used in everything. You know, so is that a coincidence? Maybe, but I think some of it may well be true, and we can't possibly verify that. And there are probably guys who will turn up and say, "Oh, I actually invented that," or I came up with this,
and that's fine because people are not stupid. I mean, as a whole.
But a lot of the stuff that we have, and a lot of the space technology we're using, a lot of the mobile phone technology, and a lot of the computer technology we're using now is all developed by the military, and a lot of it came from the Nazis in World War II.
Yep.
And it took a couple of years for the technology that the Nazis already had to be rebuilt in the US.
Yep.
And coincidentally, that would have been around 1947 as well. So I think a lot of it was Nazi technology. But there are rumors that the Nazis actually recovered an alien craft in Europe in the 1930s. Now, whether that's true or not, I couldn't possibly verify. But there is some anecdotal evidence of that, and it may well be true in part that they managed to recover or shoot down some kind of aerial craft and recover some of this vector technology, which they then used to build these flying saucer type craft later in the war.
Yeah, you've seen all their prototypes, how they were trying to make them, and they had to.
They had all sorts of crazy stuff.
Oh man, crazy stuff is right. I mean, where did they get the idea then? You know, people going, well, you know, maybe because they just thought maybe it's coincidental. Maybe they just said, well, a round craft that's aerodynamic will travel quicker. But why did just suddenly make it look like a UFO? It's like, and they were actually doing a pretty good job of it. They showed them actually, there's videos out there where it shows them actually trying to fly them. I mean, they didn't get very well. They weren't very well off the ground, but they were flying. They were doing all kinds of crazy. And then they said they perfected it, and you know, of course, they had movies like Nazis on the Moon and all this other crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not. Listen, Russia's been up there. When they put that rover up there, and they had their landers, the whole nine. It has a picture of the lander. It shows the rover, and it shows where it actually traversed over the lunar surface. I mean, you know, so like I said, you know, my question to all these naysayers. So is everybody lying? You can trash the United States if you like. That's fine. And say that they're absolute BS. But my take, again, like I said to people, I go, look, it's a reverse psychology thing as far as I'm concerned. They tell everybody, like I said, they just take one picture. Like I said, it was in the 70s or early 80s that 2020 blew this out of the water. They said the moon landings have been absolutely faked. It's absolute BS. It showed and it's a test cell, and I keep telling people this, it's a test cell. Shows the lander, the lunar buggy, so on and so forth, all this stuff on the ground, because they want to set it up and, you know, what to do once they're on the moon. And then, but in this picture, there's one picture that shows the picture, and in the upper right corner shows a steel girder. So wouldn't it be so easy if I was the head honcho, hey, do me a favor, take this picture, take it over any TV station, in case in point, 2020, or tabloid magazine, doesn't matter what it is, go ahead and take them to say, hey, look, I found this in back of NASA's whatever. It was in a dumpster. They lied. They fibbed about it.
Yeah.
It's absolute BS. Now the public goes, well, hell, I'm not going to put any weight into these idiots. You know, they lied about the moon. What makes you think they're not going to lie about everything else? You fell right into their trap.
That's exactly what they wanted everyone to think. And the thing is, I remember seeing a documentary with Richard Hoagland on there, and he used to work for NASA as a press officer, I think, as a publicity officer.
Yeah, he was a go-between, yeah.
Yeah, and he was handed the actual memo that said that was to give out to the press, that said that the moon landings may have been faked. Now, this was a cooked-up story. Mm-hmm. With a couple of dubious mock-up photographs that were probably shot down here, and they did shoot some of the images down here before they even went to the moon. Now, this was a setup. The whole thing was a setup, and it was very effective, because what then happened? Millions of people all over the world suddenly started saying that we never went to the moon because there was a couple of photos faked, which they were, and
purposely faked.
And because they wanted to believe that we didn't go, they believed it.
Yeah.
It was.
So now, think about it. You got NASA having we the people fighting each other. Well, we've been to the moon. No, we haven't. So now, just sitting back on, we'll let our lie run. People are going to not put any weight or any investigations into our photos or our missions. They're going to be, like I said in my other broadcast, they're going to be more than happy to come home from work, sit there and throw chocolate and bonbons down their throat while they're watching their favorite sitcom, go to bed, start the day over again the next day, not think twice and put nothing into it. And I absolutely believe that's exactly what happened. There's too much proof to believe it didn't. And like I said, I mean, that's why they're going, hey, you know what? If you want to put these pictures out, if you think it's, whatever, go ahead and share it with anybody you want. They don't care. Why? They want this hash going back and forth. Yeah. Oh, they did go. No, they didn't go. Yes, they did go. And that's what they want, because they want the average person to go, oh, I remember that. That was NASA about the Apollo missions. That was such crap. I mean, they're liars. I mean, I'm going to Mars. They're not even there either. Think about it, and it's worked, and people have fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And you know what? People don't realize it.
It did work, and I think there's a large minority of people out there that fell for it, and a lot of these people haven't really looked at the images, and I don't think they realise how many images there are.
Yep.
If you just look at the Apollo missions, there's somewhere between 250,000 and 500,000 of these pictures.
Oh yeah.
In fact, there's so many I can't even work it out. There's so many of them. There may even be 1 million of them, because we probably only got about half of them, or maybe 2/3 or something. And it was very common for military organisations. If you go back to World War II, there were many operations in World War II where they filmed the operation before they even did the operation.
Yep.
The invasion of Paris was partly pre-filmed before the war even started.
Yeah. Yep.
So the Nazis actually took a film crew to Paris and went up the Eiffel Tower and took some shots, waving and stuff and doing the salute and all that kind of thing. And that was before the war.
Yeah.
So they knew that they were going to do it, and they had it all ready. They had it all prepared. And there was another. This happened more than once. The Russians did it on the Eastern Front, where there was a huge battle, and they didn't film it properly. So they redid a mock-up of the battle and filmed it for the newsreels,
Yeah.
So it was quite common for military people to do this, either before or after the event, for the publicity shots and for the public and for the people to watch in the cinema or on the TV or whatever. Why wouldn't NASA do that?
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the publicity shots that were handed out to everybody by the millions, they were mock-ups. Some of them were mock-ups, and some of them were composite images where they had possibly real shots from the moon, but also mock-ups on the ground here in a studio where they split the image, and they had the lander in the background right on the horizon, just kind of cut onto it, like an image overlay with a black background where they painted out all the stars, and then you have the guy in the front in his spacesuit, and all the shadows are too light, and they've really brightened up the image. So of course they couldn't guarantee that the images would turn out that well, and most of them did turn out really well. So they thought, well, if something goes badly wrong, these guys may never come back. So we'll basically do a few mock-up shots first, and then see how it goes.
Yeah.
Which I think, actually, if you think about it, that's quite sensible, because these guys could have died, they could have crashed, or on the way back, or something could have gone wrong, like it did with Apollo 13. So if you think about it that way, it kind of makes sense. And these are military people. This is what they do. They plan for things to go wrong just in case, and they always have a plan B.
Oh yeah.
But the people that do think this way and do think we never went there have a gross misunderstanding, of the number of images of the moon that were taken before we landed there, and all the other missions leading up to it as well. There were a whole load of Apollo missions, but they don't understand how many images there are, and also they don't understand how advanced we were then.
Yeah.
We were a lot more advanced then than people realise. I don't know if you noticed, but I don't know if you're seeing it that end, but your picture of this end is looking a bit fuzzy. It's gone a bit.
I'm thinking the same thing. That's why I don't know if it was my glasses or what it was.
Yeah, it's gone a bit sort of pixelated there.
Let me see if we turn it off for a second. That looks a little better. Yeah, it looks better.
Yeah, it's just loading up this end.
Oh, maybe it was. It was actually better than a minute ago. Well, when it was actually wider, it looked clearer.
Yeah, it's gone all kind of fuzzy now.
That's weird. It might be something to do with Skype, because as soon as I click this on, I'm going to click it on right now. It's wider and it's clearer right now. And then it goes to a smaller box right now, and it's actually fuzzier.
Yeah.
So it's not the camera, because it's actually showing crystal clear until it actually goes to a smaller box. But as long as they can see me and they can see you, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
But, you know, like I said, I mean, I think it's been a plan all along with NASA, and because people are so hell-bent on this to prove them wrong, they're actually doing exactly what NASA wants them to do.
Yeah.
Yes, spread the word. Yes, we are. We're garbage. We lied to you people. Yeah, that's it. And people are spreading this stuff like wildfire, and guess what? They're working. Their plan's working perfectly. And in the meantime, they're up there. They're going, nobody's going to scrutinize us. They think we're all full of crap.
Yeah.
So it's reverse psychology, and guess what? By God, it worked.
It did, and it's still working now. And I'm surprised that people still think this way, even now.
Yep.
Even now we're on Mars, and now we're up at Pluto, we're Ceres, and all these other places, and multiple space agencies all over the world as well, not just NASA. Yeah. Surely that they can't all be faking it. I mean, it would just be insane, wouldn't it?
Well, like I said, I've got this incredible with Charon there, Pluto's moon, and I'll tell you what, I was just, I showed you a small bit of that.
Yeah, that picture you showed me earlier was cool.
Oh, I mean,
really
I was
cool.
just like, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I love these kind of things when you start getting into the photo, you start, enhancing it, and once you get into it, you go, what the hell is that? I mean, you don't even know what you're going to find. That's why I love these people when they say, well, you got pareidolia. How is it pareidolia if I don't know what the hell it is?
Yeah.
If you said, boy, it's a huge bunny, well, then yeah, absolutely, you sound like a fruitcake. But when you come out with something, you go, guys, I don't even know what the hell this is. It looks like, and this looks like the center of, it looks like a giant power plant in the center of all of these structures. And when you see this thing, and I didn't even complete it, to be honest with you, didn't even complete the enhancement of this moon, and I've collected more junk on this thing than you can imagine. The whole darn moon. I'm going, oh my God, except for maybe a quarter of it. And I didn't even enhance the whole thing, and I was just totally blown away. I go, there's just no way. I mean, again, with the stacking of the photos, and like I said, I just did that one about the large city on Pluto, and I believe that you can see where they're literally hiding and overlaying an image to try to block most of it out, but yet keep some of the things to make it look like, there may be giant shiny rocks there, so on and so forth. And you go, oh, wow, that's just cool. It isn't cool. It's a lie. And, when you get into these photos, and every time I see that white, smooth area, I go after that stuff like a pit bull. I mean, it's absolutely rubbish. I mean, you just look at this thing and go, come on. And then just break into the photo, man, and you're just going to go, wow. And like I said, I was just showing people just going like this. Any direction, doesn't really matter. All of a sudden you see squares coming out, different L-shaped items, the rest of the actual pieces that were in the ground, but yet they went further underneath this manipulation. And then by joining all of this, that's what I come up with. And you can call it a city, call it a giant spacecraft for all I give a crap. I don't care what it is. The point is, what the hell's it doing on there?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just totally blown away. And I think if they're seeing these things, now keep in mind, this is our last, well, they call it a planet, then a body, then a planet. Our last planet in our solar system, and guess what? There's something there that's intelligently made, including the moon. So you have to ask yourself, okay, this is furthest from the sun. Mm-hmm. So tell me again how life can't live, out of the Goldilocks zone.
Exactly. The thing is, what they fail to take into account, and I'm sure this is the same with a lot of these planetary bodies, is that a lot of these planetary bodies have internal heat.
Yep.
From the planet's core, and it's quite possible that primitive or life forms may have evolved on some of these small planetary bodies. But if you have a very advanced civilization out there, not from Pluto, maybe not even from Mars, but from somewhere else, that inhabited our solar system, which it looks like, and then went round all these different planetary bodies and building huge structures everywhere, then it's irrelevant whether that planet was actually habitable or not, because if you're advanced enough, you can overcome those difficulties.
Yeah.
And the gravitational pull on Pluto is very similar to our moon. It's about 0.64 or 0.62 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite low gravity, so it would be possible, just like on our moon, to build extremely large structures with relative ease if you were advanced enough and have the material capacity to do so. You wouldn't need to live there initially. You could just go there and build a mining colony or build a city or do whatever you like.
Well, it's no different than your vehicle. I mean, you got artificial atmosphere in it. I mean, to a certain degree,
exactly.
meaning you're not having oxygen coming out of it, but you can make it cold, hot. You
Exactly.
know, you have the right amount of oxygen or something that converts maybe gases from that planet to a more breathable atmosphere for them.
All we need to do is drill into the ground deep enough to get heat from the below the surface.
Yep.
Geothermal heat, and then you could extract water from there, or you could just melt if there's ice on the planet. Most of these planets have ice.
Mm-hmm.
Just melt the ice. You could convert the gases in the ice into breathable oxygen.
Yeah.
And fuel. So it's all there as long as there's water or ice, which all these bodies seem to have. Then there is a possibility to colonize any of these bodies. And I think that this was another thing that Billy mentioned on your last broadcast show, was that a lot of there's loads and loads. I mean, I forget how many there are around some of our larger gas giants in our solar system. There are dozens and dozens of moons around these huge gas giants.
Yeah. And
they get heated by these gas giants.
Yeah.
So and they've got atmospheres, they've got ice, they've got all sorts of stuff. Some of them may even have breathable oxygen atmospheres. Mm-hmm. And I was doing some checking on this just the other day, and there's so many moons out there. I mean, I've probably only heard of a few of them.
I'm trying to remember if Jupiter is it Jupiter or Saturn that has 23?
Jupiter and Saturn both have loads. I think Saturn has the most. I think it has about 23. Yeah.
I'm almost positive. I could be wrong, but I think it does. Now I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's and like we were talking about on the broadcast, you've got these smaller bodies, even with their small gravitational pull, constantly pulling on the planet and vice versa. That's how you get this heat too.
Exactly.
And that's what's going to happen.
And if they're orbiting a large gas giant, then they would be hot inside, because the gravitational interference from that large gas giant would give them that heat.
Yep.
So they don't have to be in the Goldilocks zone as we know it, near our sun. They can actually gain heat from these gas giants, and they do not need direct sunlight to do that.
And that's what we were discussing too, because it's very possible. Now they're saying they want to definitely go more to some of these moons, because they know, good and well that some of these are like Earth. So I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, and I think everything we've been taught, as far as like some people do say that, well, everything you've been taught is a lie. To a certain degree, yes.
Not everything, but a lot of it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that you get to say, okay, yeah, is it a possibility? Now, when I was a kid, I never thought of that. Maybe the planets themselves pulling on each other, like the actual giant itself, well, the planet, and then you got all its moons, and they're just pulling on each other, creating their own heat that can actually be their own miniature solar system, so to speak. Only it doesn't have its own star. It's not a star, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, if that's the case, well, hell, it may be a good temperature on there. It could be, most people think, well, the farther you go away, the colder it is. Hypothetically, yes, and it is, because the sun only shines on the surface of something. That's what heats, because as far as the atmosphere or the outer space, there's not enough molecules that carry the heat. So if there's anything that's on that the sun is shining, it will warm that surface. Now, if you get a little sunlight from the sun, plus the planets, their own gravitational pulls to the moons and vice versa, sure, why not? So this is why I think they're discovering this more and more, and they're just going, guys, there's a whole lot of stuff we don't know about. Let's just go out. I mean,
the thing is with the scientists is that what we get given as a public is not necessarily what's going on. There are always two sides to every argument, and even in the scientific circles, there are a whole bunch of guys that say one thing and a whole bunch of guys that say another thing. And the media as a whole generally will go with the most popular view. Now, the most popular view isn't necessarily the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is not something you can vote on, like in an election. The actual truth of something, whether it's the planet's atmosphere or whatever else, is what it is. Now, you may have two opposing ideas and two different factions in the scientific circles, and what scientists tend to do when they find out that one side is getting more correct assumptions about these things, they all kind of jump on board.
Mm-hmm.
They jump ship.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be on the losing side here.
Right.
Okay. So what happens over 50 or 60 years is that you might have a whole bunch of people on this side 50 years ago, but as they find more and more evidence of these things, as we go along, as we are finding now, people are jumping from that side to this side and joining the winners, okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Because they don't want to be losers, and that's just perfectly natural. So this is how science works. Science works on a sort of on how good are your assumptions, and if you make an assumption that turns out to be correct, you gain kudos for that. Yep. If you make 10 assumptions in a row that turn out to be correct, then you gain even more kudos. So popular science is about how close you can get to these things by pure guesstimation.
Yep.
And if you're good at that kind of thing, you will get more credibility from it. And if then that is backed up by evidence when we actually get to these places, then you will just be promoted, and you will go higher and higher, and you will become more powerful and richer as a scientist. I mean, that's the way it works. It's kind of like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
But there's two pyramids. There's the right pyramid and the wrong pyramid.
Right.
If you're on the wrong one, you
look
better,
bad.
You better jump pyramids before you get to the top of that one, because
you
you're
look
going to
bad.
look
Your credentials going right in a can, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is also why scientists don't touch a lot of these anomaly things that we look at. They won't touch it with a barge pole because they're too high up their pyramid to risk everything on what may well turn out to be an unreliable image from NASA or something, So until they get multiple space agencies that are actually all saying the same thing and reading the same data and recording the same images and everything else, until they get back up, they won't actually commit themselves fully, and they always kind of sit on the fence, and you get that with a lot of scientists. They like to sit on the fence because they don't want to stick their neck out.
No,
they're scared.
It's something. First of all, it's too controversial. Secondly, It's like I could lose my job or maybe my life or get locked up for life.
Exactly.
But and I can understand the position and think about it. Let's say you were a top-notch scientist and you were working for this and you get to see all of this. Why would you want to jeopardize it? I would be like in my glory. And if they said to me, you can't say a word, I'd be like, oh, but I'm still getting to see this stuff that people do not get to see ever.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to just I'm just going to shut up and not say a word. Well, let me ask you a question. Here's a hypothetical for you. Kind of shifting gears here a little bit.
Okay.
Huge hypothetical. If you're an alien species, would you want to contact Earth?
No. not immediately. No.
No.
I would observe the planet from a safe distance for at least probably 50 years.
Well, it's funny because the reason why I asked you that is because Peter from, or also known as Space Cadet, I asked him that, and I said, you know what's really sad? In this day and age, we can't love a lot of people don't even love themselves, let alone their fellow man or woman. And and I said, if I was an alien race, and I don't mean like a little gray guy with big eyes, if I was humanoid type thing, I'd say, are you insane? Look at these people on this planet. I don't want nothing to do with these weirdos. They're killing each other off. They don't think nothing of life. They're killing the planet. They're taking all its resources. Until they can come together as a collective and learn to live with each other We want nothing. This may take 200-300 years to do this. They might just go, you know what, they're just simply not ready.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, if it was me, I would observe for probably 50 years from a safe distance, like the moon, for instance.
Yeah.
And would just keep an eye on things and record what's going on, try and decipher the language and stuff like that before even thinking about it. And maybe they've already done that. Maybe they've already. I mean, apparently Eisenhower met up with some aliens that came to visit him. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Dwight D. Eisenhower, your president, who was president after was it just after World War II, wasn't it? He was president.
Yeah.
That may have happened. I can't verify that, but there are lots and lots of rumors about that. And I think his daughter came out recently and said something about it.
Yeah.
But also, there's also another very interesting way of looking at it. We are not necessarily the most intelligent creatures on our own planet. If you look at the way intelligence is measured, intelligence can be measured by the complexity of your language. Now, if they were to do that with us, they wouldn't come to us first. They would go to like the blue whale or something, or dolphins or some other aquatic mammal, because a bit like in that Star Trek movie where they scoop up a whale and all that kind of thing. It's that kind of thing. I mean, who's to say? I mean, and another way I kind of look at it is if you're a guy walking down the street and you get abducted by aliens, or say you're driving out in the countryside down the freeway or something, and an alien ship comes down and lands in front of your car, and then all your equipment cuts out in your car, and then you go blank for a couple of days, and then you wake up in your car and you think, where the hell have I been? And then you go back home and you've been missing for a couple of days, and you've got burn marks on your body and an implant or something. You know, the way you were treated is exactly the same way as it. Imagine if you were an ant. Most ants have never met a human.
Yep.
Okay, and most of them that have met a human are dead because they've been stepped on, or they've had something sprayed on them, or some powder flicked on them, and they're dead. So, if you think of all the billions and billions of ants in the world, probably only a few have ever actually met a human and survived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
Are their fellow ants going to believe them? That there are these giants walking around?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, here's a funny thing too. You know, it's when you said about like the whales and so on and so forth. They had this study that they had done with dolphins, and what they do is they had I think it was it was in an aquatic zoo or something like that. And what they did was they had 10 children in this. They had 10 boys. And what they did was one, and they didn't say this. Well, of course, not like the whale's gonna go, huh? But I mean the what do you call it? The dolphin. What they did was they put one child in there who had cancer, and this dolphin literally went over to him and started sniffing him out, like it could sense it. So, and then what they do is they took the children back out of the water, put some other children in there with this other one child. Threw them back in the water. I don't mean literally, but they put them back in the water. They're standing in the water like this, right up against the wall of the pool. Again, went right for that child who was actually sick. It knows it. And there was another little thing that I put on my Facebook about it. Says, can plants hurt? And what they did was they took these little electrodes and they put it around the actual stalk of the plant. And then they could register this on their computer. And what they did was they had and it was one of those plants, almost like a Venus flytrap, where you just poke it and it shuts tight. Yeah. It was kind of similar to that, but it was a whole plant. It wasn't just a little, just a little Venus flytrap. And what they did was they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take ether, because it works in a person, it knocks them out. What they did was they took this big syringe and they put it in around the plant, inside where the pot that it was sitting in, and it did it, and they put this glass dome over it. 5-10 minutes later, they took it off. They did the same thing. That plant did not move. It didn't move. It was knocked out. And then what they did was they took a lighter and they set fire to one of its leaves. And that damn that thing went off the chart. It felt pain. We don't know. Listen, and I keep telling people this. We have not even scratched the surface. We have no clue. Everything on this planet is alive. I mean, this is maybe why your mom always said, well, just talk to the plant. It'll grow better. not only that, is the carbon coming out of your mouth and so on and so forth, but but it's just the idea. It's because it can probably sense bad things, good things, so on and so forth. People go, that's silly. I don't know. And like I said, and you can check it on my Facebook, and you can see it's one of the top things on there. And it's just wild how they did these tests, and I'm going, holy shit, this thing actually fell asleep. It was knocked out. And like I said, they're doing this to the plant. It didn't budge. It didn't move. It just sat there. And then when they set fire to that leaf, that you can see, it just showed a graph, and that thing was hurting. I'm going, whoa. So people don't realize, we're surrounded by life. So why is it so hard to believe that there's nothing else outside of Earth? And maybe it grew its own way. People, and I said this in the last broadcast, people who are highly religious say, look at the way the Earth was made for us. No. We evolved to the conditions of this planet. We are a product of this evolution.
Actually, I don't think some of us have evolved that well.
That's a fact.
No, seriously, if you look at... I was doing a bit of research into this a while ago, and it occurred to me that if, and this is a huge if we are hybrids and some alien race came down here many thousands of years ago and split our genetics in some ways, and we're kind of hybrids with whoever these people are, and people from Earth, our own ancestors, it occurred to me that there should be evidence for this, and that if some of your great ancestors came from another planet and breathed a different type of air, then surely there would be lots and lots of people down here who would have breathing problems, which is what we have. And if you had great ancestors from, say, 50,000 years ago who lived on Mars or somewhere else, like Pluto or somewhere else, then there should be a lot of people on Earth who cannot cope with the gravity that we have down here, because the gravity is much greater. And that's exactly what we have. We have a whole load of people down here who seem to have problems just getting around. And if you look at the number of people with back problems, now I know a lot of this is environmental and the way we slouch around and we don't get enough exercise and that kind of thing. But it is possible that the reason why there are so many ill people down here, and I'm not talking about things like malaria or anything like that, I'm just talking about everyday things like the bad back and asthma and bronchitis and all these other things. Now I know a lot of these things are down to environmental things like pollution, but I do wonder whether they're a bit like Superman when he was a kid, he couldn't breathe properly. Mm-hmm. The Superman TV series or whatever, but he eventually acclimatized to the atmosphere. I wonder if we're like that. And I wonder if there is actually evidence for this in our actual genetics, which could be proven. I really think there could be.
Well, I think there is. I mean, and like I said on the broadcast, the last one, there's a, even scientists agree that the brain itself went through a huge evolutionary jump.
Massively, yeah.
From what it really was. I mean, they're just going, how do we go from, hardly thinking people to all of a sudden, wham! We're building these. These pyramids and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and these guys just with a rock and a stone or just some kind of pick, but I don't know. I just if you go back to the stories like we were talking about, Billy and I were talking about the Anunnaki, as far as the Sumerians, they believed the Anunnaki were their gods. They came down. They manipulated our DNA. They changed us from who we were, almost like a from Neanderthal to what we are today. Now, is that true? I wasn't around. I don't know, but it's funny that they went out of their way to actually document this stuff when they could have just wrote about, the plants are growing great in the farm today. But they didn't. They just come out with this wild ass story. Were they sci-fi writers way back then?
No, and they actually invented writing just to write this stuff down. No one had ever written anything before. Yeah,
they had the need to do this, and like I was telling Billy, the Sumerians had 420 some odd letters in the alphabet.
Yeah,
we've got 23. So are we more advanced, or were they?
24, I think it is. Is it 23 or 24?
One of the two. I think it was 23, but I could be wrong.
23, yeah.
But still, compared to 400 and something odd things, oh my God. And it's like, when you stop and think about that, you go, really, what the hell would you do with 420 something letters in an alphabet? Or they just have a wider language.
Also, if you look at some of the native Indian languages that you have in the US over there, I think it may be the Hopi language. I could be wrong on this, so don't quote me on this, but basically there is a language that one of the tribes in North America use, which I think is still used at least in part, which is actually the perfect language. And it looks to anyone who's a language expert, which I am not, that it looks like it's been perfectly designed as an alien language, and it's the only language that they can use to translate English computer language into Chinese accurately, because it has no inflection, and the words mean exactly what they mean, and there's no double meanings here. And so it's used as these translators. You could get these translator programs on your mobile phone now. You used to have to buy them separately, but now you can get them as an app. Mm-hmm. I think they use this language as a middle language to translate from English to Chinese and back again, and this will translate any language on our planet through this one language. So it's the only perfect language on Earth. And funny enough, I think this particular tribe actually claimed that they did come from the stars, or at least some of their ancestors did.
Well, yeah, a lot of them did that. They actually said that. Well, some of them actually claimed that they come from the.
As they called them, the Snake Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of them that claim that they came from the ground, but a lot of them claim that they had come from the stars. But it's like I said, it's like everybody's religion is the same way. All of the gods had come from the firmament or the sky, came down from the sky. So it's like, okay, so where do these people get this idea from? Did they just, like I said, pull it out of their backside? Is it something that they found it's something that they really had to write about?
There must be some basis in fact, because every single religion and all the ancient texts in the world pretty much say the same thing at the very basis, and that is that they were visited by people from the sky. Now, whether those people from the sky came from another planet or they came from another continent and then just flew across the Earth, we don't know. Probably a bit of both, I would imagine. We can't possibly know that, but it certainly looks, when you look at all these ancient texts across the world, they have a commonality to them, and a lot of them go on about Atlantis or and the Great Flood. They all have the Great Flood. They all have Adam and Eve type of story. They all have angels coming down from the sky. They have fiery chariots and flying. The ancient Greeks called them flying shields. Alexander the Great was very keen. In fact, Alexander the Great was probably the world's first ufologist. He actually was one of the first people ever to write down an encounter with the flying shields, as he called them, when he was on his way to invade India, and also he was obsessed with Atlantis. Yep. Because he was told by his teachers and by his ancestors in stories that the Macedonians, the Greek Macedonians, of which he was the main guy, were directly descended from the people of Atlantis. Yep. And he was obsessed with this, and he even went diving in the Mediterranean. Apparently, he even invented the diving bell, or one of his guys did invent the diving bell for him, one of his engineers. And he went diving looking for the lost city of Atlantis, sunken in the water. So he was obsessed with that, and so we know that these things go back a long, long way. And even if you look at Columbus, when he went across to America from Spain, you spotted UFOs, you spotted all sorts of USOs coming in and out of the water, flying. So these things may have been around for millions of years, and whether they actually came from another planet or not, we don't know, but they probably did. And a lot of our ancient ancestors probably are a mixture of Atlanteans who were advanced culture, pre-Ice Age culture, and a mixture of them, and possibly aliens as well. Who knows? If you look at some of the hieroglyphs, the Abydos helicopter, and some of these glyphs that you see in Abydos in Egypt.
Looks like submarines. It looks like...
Oh yeah, they got a helicopter.
Yep.
I mean,
it looks just like a helicopter and everything.
And I was looking at a post that Billy put up on Mars Anomalies and Solar System, his page, the Facebook page. Mars Discoveries and Solar System Anomalies, that's the one. Mm-hmm. And he's put these pictures up where he's actually been there and taken photographs of those glyphs.
Yeah. And
they are real, they're not fake, they haven't been reworked.
Absolutely real.
And I thought that's cool because there's been a lot of speculation about those in recent years, and a lot of people have said, so-called experts have said that they've been recarved and bits have been chipped off, but actually it's nice to see that someone's actually got evidence that they haven't been, to actually verify them, and they are exactly what they are. They're down to interpretation, of course, but they are real.
I mean, it's like we were talking about. I said, these people would have to see something spectacular in order to write about it. I don't care if you're putting in hieroglyphs. I don't care if you're putting in actual writing. Because here's the thing. I said, if we lived back in Jesus' time or before then, doesn't really matter. If you think about it, you're sitting in your little straw building or little mud hut, whatever it may be, and you see something come out of the sky other than a bird, I don't know about you, but I'd bow to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'd be like, I don't know what the hell it is, but forgive me, don't kill me. Whatever. Because how would you react to that? In this day and age, if we saw one land, you'd still be freaked out, but you're just kind of desensitized to it when you watch different movies. Everything's sci-fi movies. Now, if you're thinking about Independence Day, you'll probably run like hell. But, but I mean, you've been desensitized so much that it's been so much into the movies that you probably wouldn't react to it. But back then, you seen something like that come out of the sky, you'd be like, oh, man, what is that? And then these guys would step out, and that would make me want to write about it. You got these people just going to town, writing all these things, or just chiseling it out. And, there's been plenty. I mean, what was that other, I don't know if it was part of the Mayans or who it was, but there was on one of the hieroglyphs, they had pictures of like a stegosaurus, like dinosaurs and stuff like that. So that was kind of weird as hell.
There is one, I think it's called, a place called Angkor Wat, which I think is in the Far East.
Wasn't it Cambodia?
Cambodia, that's it.
That's the one then, okay.
But it was, a lot of people have said that it's actually, it looks like a dinosaur, like a stegosaur, like you said, with the big plates on the back, the sort of diamond-shaped plates. But some are so-called experts have said it's not. It's actually a different animal which happens to have something else behind it, which look like plates of a dinosaur. Maybe.
Sweep it under the rug.
There is actually there is a very, very rare type of rhino that lives in that part of the world, which is almost extinct now, the Sumatran rhino, and that has very angular plates all over it, and it looks like a dinosaur, but it doesn't have the diamond-shaped plate sticking up all along the back like a crest. Doesn't have that. It may well be. Now, I've also done some research into this. I've always been interested in a bit of cryptozoology. Not an expert in it, but I've always been interested in it and read a lot about it. And I did some research into dinosaurs a while back, and it turns out that a lot of the stuff we're told about dinosaurs is actually a little bit wrong. Now, I'm not saying they didn't all die out and there's loads of dinosaurs around. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, and a lot of research has proved this recently, that the dinosaurs didn't all die at once.
No.
Some of them went on for a lot longer. A lot of the smaller, more isolated species of herbivore, for instance, actually carried on living until only about 20,000 years ago. Now I'm talking. There's the giant sloth. That's not really a dinosaur. They may well still exist in South America, in the rainforest there, the giant sloth, which are enormous creatures. Mm-hmm. There are giant types of bear, which may still exist. There's the giant shark, which is the megalodon, which may also still exist. There are many, many types of creature which may still exist. And I was actually doing some research into the Loch Ness Monster, and it turns out that actually that's probably nothing to do with the plesiosaur or anything like that. There's not enough food, for one thing, for a plesiosaur to actually survive there. But that probably is giant sturgeon. Now, giant sturgeon can grow to 25, 30 feet long. They're huge fish, and they've got armored plates on their back, much like a dinosaur, and at certain times of the year during the mating season, they jump out of the water, and at a certain angle, they've got quite a long tail. It would look like a kind of plesiosaur from a distance, So that is probably what explains the Loch Ness monster. But I could go on about this sort of thing for hours, but basically, the basic premise is that not all dinosaurs died out conveniently in a few years.
Yeah.
Most of the larger species did seem to die out very rapidly because they couldn't get enough food to survive. But a lot of the smaller species and isolated species in various parts of the world may have carried on for many, many thousands of years, and perhaps even millions of years.
Well, you got to remember, a lot of these small dinosaurs are like scavengers anyway, so they could eat off very little and live. And it's funny you mention that, because Peter and I were actually discussing that last night, and I said to him, what's really ironic is we're hitting every planet and every body out in the solar system, but we don't know what's in the deepest oceans.
Exactly.
How do we know that there's not, and we already know there are, because there's huge caves underwater, and some of them are actually filled with water that go on hundreds of miles, and some of them actually have air. In other words, you can go down very deep and come back up, and it's like it's got its own little it's like its own little world in there.
Like Loch Ness is supposed to have these underwater sumps as well. Yeah, they're basically huge underwater caverns that have air pockets in them.
Yeah, so it's got its own rainforest kind of thing, or it's got its own little but it's almost like its own little world. I mean, it's got its own animals and everything else. So, you don't know what's at the bottom of the ocean. You don't know if there's actually dinosaurs swimming around under there, like a plesiosaurus or anything of that sort. We don't know. And, I'm not saying there are, because I don't know. But, it just seems a little funny that we're all out there doing all of these things out in space, and yet we don't know what's at the the very bottom of every ocean out there.
I mean, look at
some really insane things already.
Look at the coelacanth. They thought that was extinct, and they found one about 20 years ago off the coast of Africa, and that was supposed to have died out millions and millions of years ago. So they often get these things wrong, and sometimes things can survive in isolation if they're in the right environment and are largely protected from predation or whatever. They can survive, and there may even be, and there are rumors that there is a small species of dinosaur in the Congo in Central Africa, which may well be similar to that thing on that temple. Yep. Which are sort of small elephant-sized kind of creatures. We don't know, because a lot of this area is still unsearched and unmapped, And as long as there's civil wars going on in these places, a lot of people just don't go there. So we don't know what's there. Anything could be there.
Well, and that's my thinking. But this is what I like. I like exploration of space, because and this is what's funny, because when people go, well, it's obvious if it's something you're seeing that looks like something we have, it's got to be a picture of Earth. And like I said 100 times, they're going, but it doesn't need to be. And if these pictures are so fake, like you just uncovered whatever on what you had look like a city and some structures and stuff like that on Pluto, and then you jump on to Charon or Charon, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and you go, wait a minute. And I've said this in this video I just made. I said, if they're putting all of these so-called structures or whatever these things are on this picture of Charon, then why?
Yeah. Why are they doing it?
And if they're not putting it in there, then they're there, but they're trying to cover them. So that means, okay, how is it possible that it's fake? Do they have a motive? Maybe it's to generate more revenue. I personally don't think they need any more revenue from the people. They just take what they want. There was actually, I think, I don't know if it was like $8 trillion was missing from it just totally disappeared. I think it was in 2001, 2002. $8 trillion? They can't find it. We don't know where it went. It's not like you lost your wallet and lost $300-400. Holy shit.
I think that, according to some research I've done, a lot of it was stolen during the 9/11 attacks. There was a huge heist in New York. Whether that's true or not, I can't possibly verify that. I don't know. But a lot of gold went missing that day, apparently, because some of the Federal Reserve was held underground below those buildings. Yeah. And it just disappeared.
Well, apparently. I look at it this way. It's like, when I see these things, I just go, you know what? It just makes me feel good when I see things like these funky looking things on different planets, different bodies. It just makes you feel good because something tells you if you're seeing these things in there and they're trying to hide them. You go, okay, what would be the reason for that? Because I'm sure you sat there going, okay, like let's say again Pluto or Mars, doesn't matter which one it is. Let's just pick Mars. Okay, these things I'm finding on Mars, whether it be mechanical parts, structures, whatever it may be, they're covering them. So why would they go through the trouble of trying to hide them if they're not there?
Exactly. So they must be there.
They've got to be there. So,
and between the two of us and a lot of other anomaly hunter channels have proved this time and time again. We have proof that they are deliberately obfuscating the images on the ground with sand, and they just copy and paste the sand over these things.
Yeah.
And they do a terrible job of it. And this is what I find quite astonishing, is that a 5-year-old with Photoshop could do a better job and just spend a few minutes blending that sand a little bit and just to match it up a bit more carefully, and we wouldn't spot it, or we probably would. Well, we might spot it, but it wouldn't be very obvious. But they're not even trying to blend the sand in properly. They're just copying and pasting it and just shoving it straight over an object, and some of the examples of this that we found are so blatantly obvious and really up close in detail as well. They're not like miles away; these are right up close. I find it astonishing that they're doing such a terrible job, and that got me thinking. And I think we were chatting about this the other night. I actually think they're deliberately doing a bad job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's disclosure.
They must be. They must be.
It's the only way, because people have asked me, and I'm sure they've asked you, if they're going to cover up, let's say 90% of the photo, why leave the 10% undone? Why not just cover the whole bloody thing?
Yeah, or just not show the photo. But they are obliged by law to show the photographs, even though we don't get the full res, full size images. We're only getting the crappy little ones, but there's still a lot of stuff to be found, I'm sure, and you do get lucky now and again, and sometimes some of these things are right up close, so they're in quite good detail,
Oh yeah.
They're not always miles away. These things are often just lying right in front of the rover. I found some crazy stuff right in front of the rover that they just
I just did one about the I think it was the Opportunity, where it looked like there's actually pieces of intelligently made things laying right there in the dirt, and half of it was buried in the dirt. If you go watch my buddy Santo's video, Mars on Mars. In fact, it's his last video he had done recently, and I'm hoping he makes more. But it says NASA lies, and you can clearly see. This is great. You can check the video out. It has a rock, and then it looks like some other rock or something like that. But you can see where they went like this rectangular, I'm going to call it a square, if you will. It's halfway on this rock and halfway off it, and they just stopped it. Like they were going, okay, let's just go right over it. Oh shit, what was that? I gotta go to lunch. It's almost like the guy just stopped doing it and just walked off. And it's so blatant, and people they're not catching this. They're just it's like they're overlapping, they're overlaying stuff onto what's really there. And I keep telling people, it's not just we the people that are seeing these photos. It's scientists that they have to answer to. Scientists are scrutinizing these, going, yeah, I see what you're talking about. This bedrock or these shale. Whatever that may be in that photo, okay, we're going to scrutinize these photos, so on and so forth. So they've got to doctrine these up. But it's almost like they're going, just let a couple pieces out. Just squeak out a few of them. Yeah. So that's why you see people grabbing all of these, seeing all kinds of what look like mechanical parts. I'm seeing things that are being covered in the mountainsides. There's all kinds of crazy shit being found. And it's like, are we all wrong?
No, we can't all be wrong.
We can't all be wrong.
I'm sure a lot of the things we found may just be rocks, but I'm also just as sure, if not even more sure, that a lot of the things we found are definitely not rocks, and they are certainly intelligently made objects and all manner of things, and even animal skulls and that kind of thing, and carvings, and you name it. And what I think they're doing is, in a true Boy Scout fashion, they are leaving a trail.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you ever in the Boy Scouts or in the Cub Scouts or whatever, and you go on a hike through the forest, and you say, right, we split into two teams. We're going to try and lose you, but one of us is going to leave a trail. And you go, that kind of thing. That's what they're doing. Boy Scout fashion, they are leaving a trail for us to follow. And they're leaving us little tidbits, and they're leaving these little rocks which are only half covered or half obfuscated, just to let us know that they know we're watching, and that they will probably leave something in there at some point that we're going to find.
Oh yeah, it's inevitable. And here's the thing: it's like, I tell people, look, if it is a slow disclosure, which I believe it is, then they're going to make a big screw up. I can almost promise you. But they're doing this. It's almost like they're saying, okay, what I want you to do is cover these things up, but what I wanted to do is make it obvious to the people who are scrutinizing, who really want to know. And what they're doing is they're saying the people who are in the know are going to find these things just like that. There's going to be no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to find it with ease. You're going to go, holy shit, look at this damn, what looks like call it a transport, call it a structure, call it what you will. But they're going to go, if you're smart enough and you want to take the time to look through these photos, we're going to show you.
Yeah.
And most people just go, they just glance through the pictures real quick and go, look at the pretty rocks. We're actually on another planet. That is just beautiful. And I agree. However, dig into the photo. And once you dig into it, you're just going to go, good Lord, what the hell is that doing there? And I've said this in my videos. I said, look, I've got like, I don't know, maybe 260 videos, whatever, 270. I forget what it is now. If you only seen one object in all my videos that you said that's truly not a rock, what the hell is it doing there?
Yeah, there only has to be one. It only has to be one to be true. And basically, you've only got to be right once, and then everything else becomes possible, basically. And I do think, I think I mentioned this before when we were chatting online before, if you look at the number of people that we've got now, and we're all starting to work together now on our Anomaly Hunter channels now. We're starting to team up, and we're getting quite large, some of our channels. If you put together all us guys that are doing this stuff, guys and girls that are doing these videos and or just doing it as a hobby at home, looking through images, because I get a lot of stuff sent in by my subscribers, and I know Will does, I know you do. You get tip-offs from people, and they send you a link and all this stuff. If you get all these people together, we probably have more people working for us than NASA do, looking at these images.
Yep.
So we have a bigger team than they do.
Yep.
So if there's something there, we're going to find it.
Oh, and I think that's the plan all along. Think about it. These guys, like I said, I think these photos go through a processing. And what they do is, like I said, they take this super high def. Okay, what we need to do is go ahead and put half the quality. Take that. Okay, we've got that photo now. Okay, now just go ahead and run it through just put it through the mill. Okay, we need to put obfuscations. All right, you team over there, just cover up what you can. Leave a couple little tidbits out there for the people who really want to see what's going on. We need to make it available to them. So the people that are just glancing over, I call them transients, because those are the ones that will throw stupid comments at you, like, dude, it's a rock. When you got people like that, they're transients. They went from maybe a hot rod video to rocks.
Yeah, of course.
And they go, this guy's an idiot. And that's fine. Just move on and be done with it. But then you get the people who are like, I really want to see what's in here. I don't have the skills to use Photoshop. I don't have this to do it. I don't have a good computer to really see good resolution. I rely on these guys to do this for me. And those are the people who are jumping up. Now we've got people going, keep them coming. I've got Photoshop. I want to tear this to shreds. And that's the people you want, because it's word of mouth. Word of mouth is very powerful, especially if you ever owned your own business. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Word of mouth. I used to sell electronics, all high-end electronics. Nakamichi, Bose, Kenwood's kind of so-so because they got some good high-end stuff. Macintosh, so on and so forth. And I would sell this stuff in a small stand. It was an 8x8 stand at a flea market. And it'd be nothing for me to make $2,000 profit on the weekend. Why? Word of mouth. I actually had people, like 6 to 8 people, that would come over in the morning, early in the morning. What do you got today? What do you got? I'll take those Bose 301s and let me have those Advents you got sitting on the floor. And they'll go, do they sound good? Well, of course. And I'll have an amp there and I'll just play it for them. They go, okay, I'll go ahead and take those. What do you want for those? $500? I'll take those. So, and it's just, it's word of mouth, and it's powerful. And if, one person says, man, this is dynamic, and they put it on their site, they put it on somebody else's site, it spreads like wildfire. And that's the key to it. It's not about views for me. It's about getting the word out. And if I do get the views inevitably, I'm okay with that too. But you're getting the views is because people are starting to recognize what's going on, not because you're going, oh, goody. That means shit to me. The fact that we're getting them, it just tells me that there's more and more people getting on board.
Yeah, it's great, and I think this is the reason we're doing it. And like I said, if you put everybody together, between our channels and all the main Anomalies sort of channels on YouTube, and you get all the people that are helping us out there from all over the world, sending in links and sending images in, and saying, they draw a little circle around something, and say, what's this? Is this a skull, or is this a block from a building, or whatever? This is happening all the time, and there's a constant flow of information going on here, and it's growing steadily, and it has been growing steadily now, especially over the last few months for all our channels. I think there's been a bit of a boost recently. And I think mainly every time that there's a new mission where we get somewhere like Pluto, or there's a new thing like a while back with the Comet 610P, every time this happens, a whole load more people come on board. And I've really noticed it, especially when India joined in the Mars race.
Mm-hmm.
My subscribers just went whoosh. Over in a few days, it's like they just switched the lights on there.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I had I was getting hundreds a day for a few days, a lot more than I normally get. And there was a huge surge in interest from that part of the world. And now India are one of the, if you look at the analytics on your channel, India now a major player when it comes to traffic. Internet traffic now. Major player. As well as South America and everywhere else. But they've really come on recently. So it's great, and the more the better, and the more eyes we have on the ground, and the more people we have looking through these images, the better for everyone, because if there's something important there, we will find it.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like I was, Billy was talking about doing a show and stuff like that, and I hope that works out, because here's the thing. I told Billy, it's not about the recognition. If we can get, like I said, just a guy that, let's say he's an astronomer, but he's like freelance. He just does his own thing. He's got his own decent-sized telescope, and all of a sudden he watches a show and goes, man, what a bunch of fruitcakes. But he sees something that you had seen in a photo, and he goes, man, that's too, I don't know, it's just too spectacular, just let it go. Let me check it out myself. Or there's a guy who's maybe he worked for the law. Maybe he's a photo forensics. Decides, hey, let me run that photo through and let me check it for myself. I mean, I'm talking about professional software. I'm not talking about some fly-by-night piece of shit you can get online here. I'm talking about the real deal stuff. And then looks it up and goes, man, what is going on here? So they decide to start talking, because these guys have backing, or they got some kind of clout. Then, they'll get recognized. This stuff will start to get out to the major stuff. I'm not talking about just regular TV shows. I'm talking about get to more scientists. Hey, guys, look what I found. What do you make of this? I've showed people pictures, and I go, wait, what do you think of that? And they go, oh, well, what is that? And they're looking and they're going, well, yeah, like that one I did about the, it looks like a railing, and it looks like cars had lined up and slammed into each other. And I'm saying, I showed them two pictures. I went, well, there's one picture, and then here's another one 5 days later. They go, what the hell happened to it? I said, yeah, it's covered halfway up now. You can hardly see the anomaly. And they're going, oh, wow, that's pretty cool, but... And I said, well, what do you think about the resolution of the picture? And I've taken it to a couple people that are good, good experts. Well, pretty decent anyway. And they go, well, it looks like shit. What was it taken with, a banana? I said, well, no. I mean, it's supposed to be a high-res picture. They're going, yeah, okay. So then I go, they go, well, where's that from? What state is that from? I said, that's from Mars. And they look at me like they just seen a ghost, or I've got 5 heads. And I go, no, you don't. And they go, but that looks like a car. Is it your pareidolia playing games with you? Or is it something actually there?
It's actually there, yeah.
I mean, people just automatically dismiss it. It's got to be pareidolia. How can it possibly be a vehicle on Mars? I didn't say it had to be exactly like ours. And how do we know it? Let's say it's something similar to what we've got. How do we know that these things don't run on plutonium? How do we know they don't run on something totally different than what we've got?
Yeah, and this is the argument. And the thing is, I had a guy the other day. One of my top videos is getting badly trolled because it's been picked up by a load of websites out there which are probably nothing to do with what we do really, and it's become a bit of a sort of school playground where people are just laying the boot in, really. But it's doing extremely well. It's called Mars Ship Confirmed from Space.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's actually part 2. It was of a 2-part video, and the first part was only like 2 or 3 minutes long, and it just concentrated on that main thing there. And then I did a sort of in-depth look at it, and I also looked at some of the other boat objects and possible ships that I found in a sort of compilation video. And it's quite long, it's about half an hour long. And it's surprising that people keep saying that isn't a boat, and I'm thinking, well, which boat are you talking about? There's 5 or 6 possible boats in this video. And most people, they just look at the cover image. Now, the cover image is not of a boat on Mars. It's actually of a ship in the Namib Desert on Earth, on the West African coast. But the reason I use that image because it clearly shows what we should be looking for.
Yeah. On
the surface, something half buried and rusty. You know, a huge, great big hulking ship, mostly buried in sand, with a kind of sand dune kind of over one half of it. And it's just an example of what to look for. And it clearly says that in the video and in the description, but they don't seem to like that. I'm not faking anything. It clearly says so. But yeah, a lot of these people are saying, well, they haven't got boats on Mars. That surely they would have spaceships.
Why?
And I'm thinking, well, yeah, they probably did have spaceships, but you don't just have spaceships. I mean, we have everything down here. We have spaceships, we have ships, we have submarines, we have normal aircraft, we have cars, we have motorcycles, we have the whole
well, we have a little of both. We have a little of all because we got a hell of a pendulum swing because we've got antiquity. We've got pyramids, and yet we have spaceships. So why is it hard to believe that anything in between could be up there too? And here's the thing: I threw this analogy or this possibility rather. Is it possible? Back when they first did the first flybys, they had good high-res pictures, considering for their time. Or when they had the Viking lander back in 1975 take a look around, is it possible they seen what looked like vehicles, structures, so on and so forth? And that's what we copied ours off of. But at the time, we didn't have the technology to build them. We do now. Is it possible they just happen to say, what the hell is that? Well, I don't know. It's got wheels. It's got to be a transportation device. And how do we know we didn't get the ideas from them? How do we know when their atmosphere was being lost, it was instant frozen, everything just ceased to exist, everything just stopped? So, you know, you think about it, you go, okay, so is it possible we got our structural shapes and stuff like that, or shapes of vehicles from them? Of course, it's all speculation, but you know what I'm saying. Is it a possibility? Why not? You know,
an engineering solution on Earth would not be much different on Mars. It was a lot more like Earth a long time ago, and if they had water, which they did, liquid water all over the place, then they must have had boats. I mean, they wouldn't have swam. They wouldn't have swam across Gale Crater. I mean, it's 93 kilometers. You know, they must have had boats.
They're Olympic swimmers.
Yeah, 93 kilometers. Oh, yeah, we just swim across. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they must get a bite to eat. What do you say we do the side stroke? But I mean, you know, I look at it this way, and you're right. I mean, if and people go, I think one guy said a while back, because he said, "Oh, cars on Mars. Oh my God, what an idiot." Well, wait a minute. You're okay with mechanical parts. You're okay with electronic parts. You okayed my videos, structures. So these people went by camel or horseback. Mm-hmm. Are you seriously kidding me? How do they get this stuff around? How do they manufacture it? They had to have something. I mean, is it possible they had something like a glider like they had in Star Wars? I mean, who the hell knows what they had? But the thing is, what I'm seeing in some of these photos, and I'm not the only one who've seen this stuff. Other people have said what that looks like vehicles or some kind of weird, funky vehicle. When I say vehicle, that means anything that can transport people. Yeah. It doesn't have to literally be a car, you know, but people just jump on that, you know, they just automatically jump to conclusions. And, But I have seen things that look like automobiles. And it's like, okay, is it possible, let's say you're driving down the freeway and you see like that explosion that happened in Russia with that meteor that came down. Yeah. You know, you're sitting, oh my God, what is that? Bang! And you slam into the car in front of you. How is that? That's not like it's far-fetched. I've seen people slam into a car in front of somebody because they were looking at a girl walking down the sidewalk. How is that hard to believe? So, or something happened to that planet. It was insanely, or maybe that a catastrophic event happened then. And everything all the cars just piled into each other, and everybody just died right there in the spot. Meaning from whatever the fallout or whatever the hell it might have been.
If there was a cataclysm there, now whether it was natural or whether this was a nuclear war, like it's been suggested, like we touched on earlier, we don't know. But there was a big explosion on Mars in 1941, and this is very important because this is a date we can actually work to here, and we can actually start to look at these objects on the ground and now understand why a lot of them don't look that old. A lot of these things don't look millions of years old. No. They look less than 100 years old.
Yep.
And are in reasonably good shape, some of these things, and a lot of them are obviously rusty or half buried or smashed up. But the preservation on these things is really good. Now, if you take into account that there's supposedly almost no oxygen on the planet, and there's not supposed to be much water up there, and it's very dry, especially in this area of Gale Crater. You take those things into account. If an animal was to die in those conditions, it would freeze dry.
Yep.
Now we have animals on Earth that are freeze dried in Antarctica, which are over 6,500 years old. Yep. Some of them possibly over 10,000 years old. We were still in caves when these things were alive.
Yeah.
We were
You think about
Stone Age.
There's baby mammoths that were freeze dried. They were just completely frozen. Now,
blast frozen.
So I
literally.
mean, so is it possible? And I agree with you. I mean, we talked about this in length as far as like if there was some kind of catastrophic event, and we don't think it was all that long either. Not judging by they're saying that the atmosphere is escaping. This is what I don't get. How long is it escaping for? And so you're telling me it's taking its sweet time to just go out into space? I don't believe that. If there's something if something ripped that atmosphere out, you would have figured it ripped it out to the point where there's just none of it left. Period. I think there's still an atmosphere there. I think they're full of crap. I think they're seeing something spectacular on that planet. Whether I don't believe everything's completely wrecked from the photos I've seen. There's things that are completely beautifully standing there. And then there's areas where it's been wrecked. It's been totally annihilated. So I think they're seeing things that are unbelievable, and they just go, this is insane. This is the reason why you just, like, sometimes you don't hear nothing. I think it was like, what was it from, Sol 127, or from 127, but it went from like 109 to like 127. There was no sols in between it.
Yeah.
So in a lot of times this rover does, and I've done a video on this. With the rover, its average speed is 98 feet per hour. It can do 300 feet per hour. However,
but it rarely does that
because of the terrain, weather, whatever it may be. It's going to go a lot slower. So what you see in these pictures, like I talked about, in the background in this mount shop, I'm going. You know what? People, they claim, well. The sols, they're going, well, you don't understand. These are like, what's his name? Nev T. When he had done these panoramas and gigapans, you can see, he goes, well, you don't understand. There's many, many sols in there, so what you're seeing is not real because I've put them together. No, they are real because if you got one section, and this particular item happens to fall into those sols, picture a mountain, which I don't know how they could possibly do this, 6.2 miles away, which it's not anymore. I believe it's like a mile away. But let's say a mountain, you could picture, I've got one out here, it's maybe quarter mile tops as a crow flies. Now, if you were to look at this mountain and you're blasting along the freeway doing 60, 70 miles an hour, everything on the side of you is going shoo, 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 shoo. Look at that mountain, though. It's barely going by.
Yeah, of course.
Now, picture you only doing 98 feet per hour. Now, you can go by 30 sols, and guess what? That background's not going to change all that much.
No, it hasn't. It's barely moved.
It's all relativity. It's all relative.
And the fact that the rover has backtracked a few times and gone back over certain areas, and it's really not moved very far at all from its actual landing spot. And if you check out the overhead maps of the area, you can see where it's backtracked and kind of gone back round and come back this way and gone back that way. And it's basically just tic-tacking around, and it barely moves, and sometimes it doesn't move for weeks or weeks.
Hell, it's been 3 months it hasn't moved. The only thing it had done was like pivoted. It just pivot back and forth and just take, showing like samples. But this time we've actually looked at it. We're going, dude, this thing has not moved in 3 friggin' months.
Yeah, and it gets quite frustrating, and that's when I go on to do moon videos and stuff like that, because you can't wait around forever. So I think, well, if it's not going to move, I'm going to do some stuff on the moon or somewhere else for a while, and then come back to it. But the thing is, I mean, I figured out really early on. I think the main image that that sold me, as soon as I downloaded this image, I think it was one of the first really large sort of panoramic shots that we got of Mars, and I think it was called the John Klein image, the John Klein location, and it's basically a stitch together of a whole bunch of images which were taken at Christmas a couple of years back, and it's in perfect HD as well, and it's not been obfuscated, and it's perfectly clear, and it's been white balanced as well, so the colours are kind of bluey and grey, lots of blues and greys in there. So the colour may be a bit off, but actually it's a really sharp image. And that's obviously made up of lots of individual images put together, but it's really high quality, and this was the first really high quality image we got, really. And I found loads of stuff in that, and I spent months looking at that image, and that's what really got me into this. And then I thought, I'm gonna have to make a video about this, because there's just so much to see in this image, fossils and objects.
All kinds of crazy things, yeah.
And there was one particular rock right in the middle of this image, which is about 1 meter across, a few feet across, maybe a little bit smaller, and it's kind of a squarish color shape. I mean, and all these rocks are quite dark blue, and this rock has got multiple fossils in it. Now, what it looks like mud, which has got a large amount of volcanic or ash in it. Now, this may be fallout ash, I don't know. It's either from a massive volcano like Olympus Mons going off, and all the ash settled into the water and formed a sedimentary layer, which then, when the water dried out, this mud was left behind and then solidified into rock. It's either from the volcanic ash, or it's from a massive explosion. And what I think happened, and I figured this out a couple of years ago, is that if Mars was covered in water, and lots of it was, if there was a massive explosion there would have been a tsunami, okay? And that tsunami would have washed a lot of this stuff into Gale Crater.
Yep.
And this is why we're finding so much stuff in Gale Crater, because it would have been washed in there, because it was the lowest point. And it's something like 4.5 kilometers down below the surface of Mars. So this would explain why we're seeing so many vastly varied and crazy things in one place, because you've got dead animals, you've got skulls, you've got buildings, you've got what look like boats, and even bits of aircraft and all sorts of stuff there. So if there was anything up higher surrounding that crater, it would have got washed in. And it looks like tsunami debris to me, where you got a whole jumbled up load of crap with a whole piles of mud and sand all kind of jumbled up together, and some of it's all kind of stuck in big lumps, where you have bits sticking out, bits of metal and bits of what look like mechanical objects that are all broken up and kind of twisted, and I think a lot of what we're seeing is tsunami debris, where it's dried out and solidified and become dust covered over the years. But I do think it was probably fairly recent. I think it was less than 100 years ago, and I think 1941 is a very good starting point to work from.
I think it's, to be honest with you, I think it's spot on.
Yeah,
come on.
It all adds up.
You go, okay, 41, let's just round it off to 40 for the hell of it. Okay, that's 60 years, 75 years ago.
Yeah, 74, 75 years ago. And looking at the level of preservation on some of the skulls and other things that I found, it all fits that scenario. I'm sure a lot of the things are much, much older and may have just been there anyway.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the things were washed into that crater from above, and that's why we're seeing so many different things in the area. And this is why it's very difficult to work out what you're looking at, because really the only thing you can do is not rule anything out, because in that scenario you could come across almost anything. It could be a dead alien, it could be a dead animal, it could be a car, it could be a airplane, it could be anything. A ship or a boat or whatever. Buildings, towers, it could have all been blown to pieces and washed into this area, and we're just seeing fragments of all this stuff all over the ground. And I came to that conclusion almost immediately when I started looking at these images, and I came to a sort of theory based on that. And this particular rock, like I was saying, has got multiple fossils in it. Some of them look like fossilized primitive sea creatures, like crustaceans, a bit like lobsters. But there's also what looks like to be a fossilized rat or some kind of rodent right in the middle of this rock. So you've got what looks like a fossilized rodent, and then there's a kind of fossilized lobster here, and there's another weird sort of sea creature here, which is similar to a lobster or some sort of crayfish or something. And then there looks like there's other fish remains and other creature remains, all stuck into what would have been a lump of wet mud, which is a deep blue color, which may be full of ash and whatever debris from the explosion, and it's all solidified together in one big lump. So
well, I'm not even surprised. I mean, and then they're seeing, what looks like glass in a lot of places. And what do you usually get from high heat when you add it to rock?
Exactly.
You get glass. So, and here's another thing that might bake your noodle a little bit. Look up Wikipedia, just for the hell of it. Look up nuclear fallout debris, what color it may be. I did this the other day. Anywhere from a dark gray to a brown. Now, what really blew my mind was that you can see some photos of the Curiosity rover where it's actually and moved its wheels back and forth. And what it did was it dug up it got rid of the top layer of this dust, perhaps, and then you're seeing a lot more color, like different colors of the dirt underneath it. So it's like there is a dust. So is it possible that's where they're at? They're actually at a nuclear hit or an area that was totally devastated, and that's where they're at. And they're and then they've got the other rover still roving around, Opportunity, looking at different things. I've seen some crazy things in these photos from Opportunity, absolutely bizarre. It looked like a frame of a building. It looked like, and I even described it, looked like some cars at a gas pump, like you got the overhead roof type thing, and it looked like just a frame of that was left, and the whole roof is gone. So it's almost like you think, well, what happens in a nuclear explosion? You get the force that comes from it and just wipes everything out. I don't know. I mean, of course, that was all speculation too. But you put together 1941. Okay, you got this dust. How do we know that this? Well, it's like a brownish reddish dust. How do we know it's the way it didn't react to its Mars atmosphere, and it's got a different color as opposed to a brown as opposed to slightly red? I mean, then we're seeing this devastation and these parts and everything else. How do we know? I think it fits, and I think everything fits together like a puzzle, to be honest with you. I've been doing a lot of research on this lately, and I'm going, it just makes sense.
Yeah. And especially the fact that explosion was spotted by Clyde Tombaugh, the guy that discovered Pluto, to me gives it a lot of credence, because this is you don't get anyone better than that to witness something. Yeah. This guy was the top guy for many years down here. He was considered the most prolific astronomer who ever lived, and the fact that it was him that saw it, then I'm going with him on this. If he says he saw it, I believe him.
Well, yeah, because the guy wasn't some clown. He was
exactly.
So I mean, the guy knew his stuff. He was an astronomer. I mean, the guy had some serious credentials.
Absolutely.
So who are you going to believe?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going with him on this. And the thing is, now whether this explosion was natural or it was actually a nuclear blast, or there was two nuclear blasts, we don't really know yet. And this guy John Brandenburg swears that and he's actually a nuclear physicist, this guy, and he says that the radioactive elements that have been measured in the atmosphere are from radioactive fallout from an actual atomic explosion. Yep. Now, who knows? Maybe these things can happen naturally. We don't, I mean, some scientists are suggesting that they can happen naturally. I don't really see how that can happen, but maybe so. But we should not rule it out. And when there are lots of pieces of evidence which are now coming together. We're starting to get a real picture now of what actually happened up there, or possibly happened up there, and when it happened. Now we have a date, now we have a scenario, and everything can be worked out either from that or leading up to it. Yeah,
you get a timeline, you get the circumstances around it, and next thing you know, you go, man, and it's actually will freak you out if you really think of it. You go, okay, if I was in Clyde's, if I was in his shoes and I'm watching this at the same time, I'm going, what the hell just did that? And like you said, it could be natural. I don't see how let's say it was volcanic. Now, you can spew a ton of ash into the atmosphere, but an explosion where you can see, unless it was at night, maybe perhaps he's seen this huge explosion. That's a possibility. I don't remember when he said he's seen it. It would have to have been at night. Well, not really, but it would, for him, it'd have to be.
Yeah, it was.
So, is it possible it was that? But then when you start to see, like you said, when they talked about how there's two large areas that have what looks like radiation fallout, and then you go, okay, then I'm seeing these things that I'm seeing laying around, around the grounds and everything. Wow. You put this thing together like a giant puzzle, and you just go, now you can't be sure, of course. You can only speculate, but there's a lot of things that go together, and you just go, damn. I mean,
the evidence is starting to fit together. And it is very much like doing a crime scene investigation here, really, and basically, or doing a jigsaw puzzle without knowing or having a picture to work from, and with a lot of pieces missing. That's what it's like. But if you this is why it's important to get as many people out there involved, because the more people we have, the more likely we are to get all the other, or at least more pieces of the puzzle to fit together.
Absolutely.
And this is why lots of eyes on the ground are important. Really important.
I think more people get on board, the better it is. And who knows? Maybe they have their their theory about what might have happened. Me personally, I've been like I said, from what you've seen in the pictures you've done, the photos I've done, everybody else has been doing. You got Will, you got all of these people doing all of these. Just the little pieces, and you go, okay, why does it look like it's been tossed about?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Why does it look like it's been tossed about? We're looking at the dust, and like I said, just look at some of these rover pictures, the colored ones, and you can literally see where they've turned the whole rover, and because the wheels went, zzz, 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 they moved around. All of a sudden, you can see like all different colors of rock and everything else, and it's a circle where the wheel was, and then the rest of it is all this reddish, kind of brownish sand, or this dust that had fallen over. You go, come on.
A lot of it's blue, and it looks to me like a layer of ash.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what it looks like. And when you see, this is fairly obvious in lots of the images. And like you said, when the wheels of the rover disturb the ground, you can see it. And if you look at what a very good place to look would be some of the very first images that were taken of the surface. Yep. When they actually sky craned the rover down, there's a blast zone. Mm-hmm. And it's all blue and sort of a grey blue underneath.
Yeah.
And you can see this in the high-rise images. You can see it on the ground. And basically, obviously, when it landed, the rockets on
the crane itself,
the sky crane actually blew all this dust away. Mm-hmm. And there's all this blue and really deep-coloured stuff underneath. Yeah. So basically, we have this layer of about, say, a centimetre of this brown dust over everything, this orangey brown dust, although it's not quite as orange as we're led to believe. And under it, there's all this blue, deep blue stuff underneath. And if you look at the high-rise images of around the bottom of Mount Sharp, where the river and lake bed is, it's a deep blue colour. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of this is volcanic, either volcanic ash or fallout ash from a nuclear winter.
Yep.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, I'm seeing, like I said, there's just too many pieces that fit to that to just pass it off like it's no big deal. I don't know. And like you said, and the biggest thing I think is, because people go, well, if there was no life, or like the scientists tell us, that there hasn't been any life, it could have been, well, they're not even saying, they might be saying like organic life, because it was a lot like Earth, then why couldn't it have humanoids or people like us? And the thing is, it's like, okay, if you go back and you go, if it's, we were talking about the timeline as far as these things still remaining on the planet. They would be dust if they were millions of years old, and we know they're not. There's no way. The stuff can't be a million years old. It's laying all over the ground. I'll guarantee it's probably around 70, 75 years ago.
Yeah,
everything would still be there.
Exactly. There is an actual. I can't remember what it is now, but archaeologists have this scale they use to work out how much cosmic dust lands on the Earth. Mm-hmm. So they can work out by digging down how far back something is just by the depth of the soil.
Yep.
Now, of course, you'd be able to do that on Mars as well, and it should be roughly the same as here, because the same amount of cosmic dust is going to be landing there, so that the soil or dust on the ground is going to get thicker over the years. You can measure this.
Yeah.
It should be possible to work out exactly how long ago this stuff was buried by.
I guarantee they already know. They already know it.
They must do. They wouldn't have to dig very far.
No, and like I said, they've done this test back in the Viking days. You know, they just took a couple of scoops, put it in there, just wanted maybe it was probably a crude laboratory on it. Yeah. But nonetheless, they probably said, okay, let's just at least get to know these. Was there carbon? Was there? Maybe we'll see some microbial stuff in there. Maybe there was, because I don't know if I'm trying to remember what instruments they had on there, but if they added heat like this, the Curiosity does, and they see what gets exposed, like a gases, they can tell. Yeah. So if that's the case, if they did this back then, they just wanted to know, because think about it, what would you have this thing test? Anything that would give off or show signs of life. Carbon. Anything. Methane, anything of that sort. Is it in the soil? Yes, it is. Okay, that's all we need to know. Now, the next step is get your ass there. And I think that's what they've done. I think they know exactly how long the stuff's there. They know exactly what's there. Of course they do. And that's the reason why they're there. They're literally picking through the stuff that's laying there. The stuff that's not destroyed, the stuff that is destroyed, they're just looking it over. It's like you go into a bombed out area and just like scavenge for stuff, like picking up stuff. Ooh, what's under here? It's almost like that's what they're doing. They're just running through these areas, looking at this junk. We talked about the other guys that we had talked about the wheels on it. In fact, I think we touched on it the other day.
Yeah.
It's you can tell it's not rocks going through these wheels. There's one area that looks like it's like a rectangular, ripped up area, like something like a beam or something's going through it, as opposed to a simple rock. I don't buy that.
And my theory is, and we were chatting about this the other day online, that it's a small possibility that the rover may have driven over an anti-personnel mine, because I have found, and I know, you remember the ball that hit the press, the ball on Mars? Yeah. Probably 6 months ago. Probably it was sometime last year anyway. Probably more than 6 months ago now. Now I know you did a video on that. I did one, and Will did one, and we all came to a similar conclusion that it's not just a round ball. It's actually got structure to it. And now Will said it looked like a cannonball, and I thought, wow, it does a bit actually. So I got the image and I sharpened it up and I enhanced it, and it looks like it's got a fuse on it. So it's actually a round ball with what looks like a fuse screwed in the top. Mm-hmm. It looks like an actual shell, a round shell. And I have found another one which actually looks like a hand grenade with a pin coming out of it, lying in the dirt, which is similar size to that one, very similar. And I wonder whether, if there was a war up there in the past, or if for all we know, there could have been a building somewhere in Gale Crater or above Gale Crater full of munitions, and when they got hit, that whole building and all the stuff inside it could have been just blown all over the place. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing things lying on the ground like ammunition. Yeah. Now, if that's the case, there is a small possibility that the rover could have driven over an unexploded device, which could have blown a hole through that wheel, which looks like it's been blown through it, or at least it looks, like you said, like a sharp metal object has been punched through it. Oh yeah,
it's not just holes. I mean, you look at these wheels, it's not just simple holes. Yeah. It looks like it literally went over something. Now keep in mind, this thing's supposed to be, I think, just shy of a ton. Or a hair over a ton. I forget which one it was. Is either side of it. Now, you picture, even if you were to divide that by 6, because you've got a weight of all 6 wheels. If you were to divide that, you go, okay.
And also take into account the lower gravity, of course.
Right. So
half that again.
so let's suppose, for argument's sake, it's only a couple 100 pounds on each wheel, just for argument's sake. You got 2, 4, 6, blah blah blah. Let's say it's got 300 pounds or whatever on each wheel, just for a hypothetical. Okay, something's sharp and that thing running over, it's going to rip that wheel. It's not very thick. I forgot how thin that aluminum actually is. It's not very thick. So
I think it's probably about half an inch, or
I don't even think it's even that. I think it's
not even that. No.
I think it was like a 16th or an 1/8.
Yeah, it's quite thin. But the thing is, if you take into account the spread of the load on the different wheels, and also you've got to take off more than half the weight because it's a smaller planet.
Yeah.
So effectively, the rover doesn't weigh a ton; it weighs less than half a ton. In that
environment. If you're going by what they're telling us, that is.
Yes.
So we don't know if it's more or less or the same. What they're telling, we don't know if that's true at all.
Supposedly, it should weigh a lot less on the surface of Mars.
Well, it should hypothetically, if you go by the gravity.
Yes.
Now, if they're full of crap and it's a lot like Earth, well, then it weighs close to a ton.
Yeah,
so,
but either way, those wheels do not look like they just run over some rock.
No, there's no way.
They run over something sharp or something that has exploded something sharp through them.
Yeah. Something's punctured those wheels, and it's not a simple rock, because you would think it would just make a dent and then it'd be a hole. Yeah. Even if it's a very sharp rock, as soon as that wheel goes over this, it's going to puncture, it's going to go right through it. This looks like it went like this, like there's something laying this, and it went over it and it punctured the wheel that way, just kind of stuck up through it. So I don't know. I mean, it's just bizarre, and I still don't understand if the Opportunity's wheels are still together to this day, 11, 12 years later. How is it that this thing's up there for a couple of years and the tires are getting? The wheels are getting shredded.
It's because there's a lot more junk. I think it's the type of junk we're seeing. It all kind of adds up. If there are sharp metal objects on the ground, and there are, because we found them, then that would explain it.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too: is it possible, because Opportunity's maybe quarter to half the size of that Curiosity, that they're not sending it into these big things, into these big areas, because they know darn well it's going to get stuck. It only has wheels so big.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have the power to get out of it.
They're a lot more delicate with that thing, aren't they? Because it's a lot smaller.
Right. Yeah. So it's not getting stuck, and they probably went, okay, we're looking at it from the orbiters. We know exactly what it's saying. Oh, this looks to appear to have less junk on the ground. Seems to be softer sand. We'll put the Opportunity there. And we'll put the Spirit, and of course the Spirit got stuck, and it's a really soft sand. If you've seen the last video of that thing, it just buried itself, and that was the end of it. Now, is it true, and or is it still going on too, and they're just keeping that hush? Or if it's the real deal, it definitely got stuck in the sand, and that's the end of it. And it was like beach sand, for crying out loud. It was softer than beach sand, and it just buried itself. You couldn't even see the front wheel; it just literally buried it. So I'm going, okay. The rover that's going to be on the next one we send is going to be in this area. We're going to make it a lot bigger. Bigger wheels can go through softer sand. It can go through bigger rocks or different size debris. I don't think
it's got a much more advanced suspension system and in many ways. But the wheels. I mean, whoever designed those wheels needs a clip round the ear, I think.
They did need a new job, like working at McDonald's or something, because I don't understand that. I'm saying, okay, I get for weight reasons, to send it to Mars and everything. I get that, but they could have made that a little thicker. And don't get me wrong. I tell people, look, even if that wheel was to shred, because people are going, oh, here it comes, the wheel's going to fall off, and it's going to be the end of it. No,
it's still good.
It has from the hub. It's got the actual spring steel coming out, going into that ring inside the wheel itself. So even if that wheel just literally fell off, it would still have a ring. So in other words, it could still support the weight pretty much to some degree. Yeah. It's not just going to just stop and quit. It's not going to do that. So
it is a well-designed piece of kit, and it is designed to run on 3 or 4 wheels if necessary. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, the way the thing's built, I mean, it's pretty brilliant the way they put this thing together, and I still maintain that, and I'll bet my life on it that, like I said, they put ears on it too. It's not just eyes. They put ears on it. Just like I think they did the same thing to the what do you call it? The Rover. I mean, I'm sorry, the lander, the Viking lander years ago. I think they put eyes and ears on it too. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would say, hey, put a camera on there that's fantastic, but don't put anything that's got to do with sound because we don't need to hear that. I just don't believe that. I want to believe that wholeheartedly, and I'd bet my life on it, that they put a listening device on there too.
Yeah, they must have done. And the thing is, I think you were saying something about this the other day. It makes absolutely perfect sense that if you've got that much technology invested into this thing, that you would have tested it somewhere, like in Devon Island, for instance. We were talking about Devon Island, and there's a particular episode, I think it's Rich Planet TV, that everyone's pretty much seen on YouTube now.
Yeah,
I think it's on about 50
years. The first word that comes to my mind, dipshits. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
And they're saying that the rover can't be on Mars because it's too cold and all this crap.
Yeah, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched these guys and I couldn't stomach them for about 20 minutes. I watched them, and he's going on about saying, well, you know, there's no possible way of the curiosity because, you know, they right off the bat. This would quote me right off the bat. He goes, he went from talking about opportunity to curiosity, and in the same breath he said, well, there's just no way, because if you look at the way batteries are built, there's just no way that they could function at such a cold temperature. First of all, it doesn't get as cold as they think it does. That's first and foremost. Yeah. But secondly, curiosity has no batteries. It's radioisotope. It's not a battery. Now the opportunity has a battery. It's rechargeable. The only thing I do agree that unless it's a cutting edge battery, how is it possible it can charge and discharge for 11, 12 years? That's the only thing I have a question about, that they might be getting around. But as far as that body of that curiosity is going to fall apart, the redundant motherboard is going to take a shit before that radioisotope takes a dump. And, you know, when it does, like I tell everybody, it's sophisticated equipment. This thing has heating ducts. It has heat exchangers, and the most important part of that rover itself, it can cool itself. It can heat itself. It's not. Then they put this thing together. They thought about everything. Okay, I'm too cold. We'll have it heat up. Gets too hot. We'll have it cool down. These guys are brilliant people. They're not just going to put a pile of shit together and just say, "Hey, let's just see if it makes it." No. They had. Yeah. I mean, this thing can drive autonomously. It sends information back through 2 or 3 transmitters, transceivers. It's one of the smartest things on that we've ever put together. Why would they put a subpar camera on it? Why would they not put ears on it? But yet they put a microphone on Maven. How does that make sense? So, well, wait a minute. We're going to have it fly around. We're going to have it come into the closest orbit we can possibly have. We're going to have it come into the upper atmosphere, and we're going to have a microphone on it. Wait a minute. Now, I'm not an engineer, a sound engineer, but let me tell you something. If I'm going 75 miles an hour and I stuck a microphone out the window, I promise you're going to hear nothing but air noise. I don't care how you muffle a damn. If you put a what do they call that, pop screen on the thing, put whatever the hell you want on it, it's not going to work. Yeah. It's just simply not going to work. They had, in fact, I was watching a guy, I like watching racing videos periodically, and the guy it was on his supercharged Corvette, he had a camera, which in turn also has a microphone on it, and you can hear him pulling away from this, he was racing a guy with a Hayabusa motorcycle, and he was pulling away from him, and the noise was ungodly. You could hear wind noise, then you can hear the exhaust first of all because he's accelerating. And then you can hear just the wind noise. It's too much. Now picture that Maven going through the atmosphere. How fast do you think that thing's going? But yet they're going to pick up sound with that thing? I just don't understand the logic. That's why I'm saying there's no way that these guys didn't think of this thing years ago.
Yeah.
And say, or just a couple of years back, 2012, or before they put it together, put yourself some ears on it. And like I said, as far as data or anything like that coming from the actual video, because it takes video, we never see it, or even just the photos, I think sound bites actually take up less data than an actual good picture does. So
yeah, that's quite right.
So now if you go like this, okay, just turn it on. Let's have a 5-second bite out of it. Let's see what it sounds like. You can hear. You can hear birds or wind noise. Maybe there's a twister going by, like one of those little dirt devils, or whatever. You know they're hearing these sounds. You know they are. And for them to say, no, we don't have nothing like that. Now they said in the one in 2020 supposed to. The year 2020, they're going to send the next rover. It's going to be identical to the Curiosity, only have a couple different instruments. And I'm thinking
a DNA testing kit as well. It will have.
Yeah.
If there's nothing up there but rocks, why are they putting a DNA testing kit on the next rover?
Well, yeah, because they want to test the rocks in case maybe one of the rocks is pregnant. I mean, come on, it's just so bizarre. You just think of these things, and I'm putting it in a funny way. I am. I mean, but it just sounds so. It just sounds like some dipshit would come out with that if it's nothing more than rocks on there.
Yeah.
Well, we need to take more samples because we're next to that. The ancient lake bed, so we want to really test this.
And the thing is, I touched on this in one of my videos I did a while back. I did a sort of, I think I did it about 6 months ago. I can't remember the name of the video now, but I was looking at, there's a lot of these private companies, they're actually designing stuff to be taken to Mars, because obviously we're going to be colonizing Mars in 15 or 20 years' time or whatever, Not that long away. It could be even sooner. And some people say we might even have military people up there already, which I think could be true. But if you look at some of the designs of some of the buildings that they're coming up with to go on Mars for our habitat on Mars, these things look like something off Jurassic Park, with huge, great walls, electrified walls, like a moat, like a big kind of armored steel wall around the outside with towers and guns and crazy stuff. And it's like, now, if there's nothing to be scared of on Mars, why are they building these things that look like something off Jurassic Park?
Something to keep something out?
To keep dinosaurs off.
Yeah. It's like,
hang on a minute. What the hell's all that about? Now, these obviously not all these designs will be accepted, of course, but we don't know. I mean, they could just send us pictures down of some normal-looking crate or whatever. They just dump on the surface and they just live in that crate, and then they get another crate dumped on the surface and they live in that crate. These different modules, as they call them. But if you look at some of the designs that they come up with in recent months and years for some of the habitats on Mars, they look like huge armored castles. Yeah. Designed to keep out huge, dangerous creatures. They do not look like just a normal habitat, like with a dome or a glass dome and a greenhouse. These look like armored, weaponized castles.
You see, I've seen something like that. I don't know how true that is, because I know that the last ones I seen was kind of like you were saying, like it had like a dome, and it was like these cute little modules that people would live in, and it looked like something that was, I don't know if you want to use the term aerodynamic too. They're more rounded, they're more dome-ish, because if it's, I'm sure it does have weather there, whether they want to say it or they don't. But you got the dirt devils, if it comes through, it'd be something that could be, anchored to the ground or augured to the ground, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, if they're going to have these, but then I seen something like you're talking about, I'm going, yeah, what the hell would you need something that looks like you said, like it's trying to keep something out, and I'm going, I'm confused. I mean, let me guess, there's deadly rocks on there on Mars? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I know, we know, come on, there's animals there. There's I wouldn't even be surprised if they actually are, because you hear stories about how we're already there and we actually have a relationship with the people, the inhabitants of Mars, and so on and so forth. How true that is?
Don't know. Well, yeah, I was looking into that the other day. The guy, Captain K, I think he calls himself. He claims to have been on Mars for 17 years. Yep. But what I did find interesting about what he said, he talked a lot of crap about military operations against aliens and stuff. And he's saying there's two types of aliens on Mars. One's a sort of reptilian type, and the other's a sort of insectoid type. Now, whether that's true or not, I have no idea. A lot of this may be complete misinformation or disinformation. Yeah. But he did sort of anecdotally say that there were small creatures there, like lizards and small reptiles and rodents living on the surface. And he said desert animals, like you would expect to see down here. Small desert animals. So I would expect to see things like lizards and snakes and gophers and little rats and that kind of thing. And in some images I have found them, and the sidewinder snake that I think Will spotted in one of the really early opportunity images from years ago that turned up and just kind of skipped across in front of the rover, and I have found similar looking things near the Curiosity rover as well. And one guy even sent me a picture from the rock nest image of what that's called white snake, completely albino snake.
Yep.
Pure white. But the thing is, he didn't show me exactly where it was, and I looked for it, and I couldn't find it. It's a huge image to search, massive image. I'm sure I'll find it, but it's a little bit too far away. But it looks about 1 or 2 foot long, and it's pure white. This snake. And the other snakes I found, there's a shiny snake I found which looks like a sidewinder and is actually skipping across the ground, but it's from a very poor quality image. It looks like a snake, and it's very shiny. You can see his eye, you can see its shiny iridescent scales on it. It's quite smooth. Just like a sidewinder down here, you know.
Well, anything that's got to do with something, anytime I see something that's like white, like a highly contrasted or anything like that, I automatically try to burn that thing.
Yeah.
And because usually, and I found this out, at least in satellite pictures, you can do this too. Now, there's many ways to do these pictures, but what I did was, you'll see like this area, let's say it's just a rectangular area, and it's like highly contrasted. You could tell it's been contrasted purposely. And you literally go through it, and all of a sudden, there's 4 or 5 different things all in that one line. Now it's got independent structures as opposed to one big large thing, and you just go, whoa. So that's why I tell people you got to look into these things, because what you'll find is things you never thought in a million years you'd find. And a lot of people are seeing the manipulations that's laid over the picture, and they're calling them things. And I'm saying, no, you don't understand. You want to look for, if you see like a black and white photo, and you see a lot of this darkish brown, when I call it brown, I should call it gray, because if it's black and white. But if you see like more of a darker gray, what you want to do is try to get through that, but look for the white specks that are sticking out. That's the actual anomaly, not the brown shit or the dark stuff. Just cut through it, and you'll find usually those little white bits of one big giant bit. And you know, there's so many ways I've found that these guys have been doing this that I'm going, wow, it's like I can just look at a picture, I know exactly what tools to use. Yeah. I don't even have to question anymore. I know to go, okay, just go ahead and take that out, do this. It would take me super long. Now I just did that one about Charon, depending on how you want to pronounce it, Pluto's moon, and like I said, I started going through that one, just doing a couple little enhancements, and then I knew exactly what to do. I'm going, wow, check this shit out. Wow, this is insane. And I never thought in a million years I'd see the stuff I seen on this moon. But you were spot on when you said about the compression, and I found that funky too, because I had the picture on my desktop, and I'm going, why are they running this way?
Yeah.
Compression marks. They usually run this way or this way. Now, depending on the line you're looking at, it's either up, it's either horizontal or what do you call it?
Vertical.
Yeah, it's either vertical or horizontal. So I'm going, why is it like that? Unless they've rotated the picture, which is a possibility. Now, when I enhanced it, I left it the same way you'd get it off the site. And what I do is I enhance this whole thing. I go, there's just no way these are compression marks. And it's like I showed you that that small little tidbit through Facebook. I said, do these look like compression marks to you?
We're only on that part.
And there's just no way. You just go, this shape's there. There's no way. So what they're doing is they're taking this, they're CGIing this shit over it, and then they're putting these patterns on here so to get rid of any individuality, any kind of detail as far as structure-wise. And it's to throw off the eyeballs. And I'm saying these are not actually in the photo. They're being added.
Yeah, looks like it.
That's the impression I got when I looked at it. I could be totally wrong. I'm not a professional. But that's what I've got when I looked at it.
They are definitely obfuscating these images of Pluto and Charon, and we're not getting the full-size images. And I really hope we get some really good close-ups soon. I mean, that video you just did of the close-up was, I mean, what's that? 1 megabyte image? That one?
Yeah, it was like 1.2, 1.5, something.
I mean, they should be much bigger than this. They should be a lot bigger.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's like they're like taking the picture and like taking half the information out, or they're just CGIing over, and they're just making it a lot smaller or less, like half the quality. So the second you zoom in, what does it do to it?
Yeah.
It goes to hell in a handbasket. It just looks like shit.
I think the image is, that particular image is 1024 by 1024, so it's just over a 1 meg image, which is not very big at all. No. And funny enough, it's the same size as the rover pictures from Mars.
Yeah,
that's the same size. Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah.
So we know they must have much better cameras than this, and I think, and it even says on their site that they're withholding the full images to be released at a later date, but it doesn't say when. I've got this on the links are on my recent video. There's a whole bunch of links there. You can link to the page. It even says there that they're withholding the full images, and they're using the excuse that is data transfer. Well, if you can transmit a whole bunch of small images, sure, we could transmit a couple of larger ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different, is it, really?
Well, the technology you got today, this is what people don't understand either. If you take if you're into radio, you know what I'm talking about. If you took a simple Citizens Band CB and you drove it into you took the vehicle, drove it into a parking garage that's underground, there's a good chance you're not going to get out very far with that. Now, if you use a UHF radio, you'll go through that concrete a whole lot easier. Although it's still limited, it still can go through it better. Now, they transmit on the X band. So they're not stupid. They know what frequencies travel better or best through a void, through no atmosphere. I mean, they can do this. They can actually simulate that here on Earth and tell what frequencies travel better through that particular area, or space, or void, or whatever. They're not dumb people. So these people are taking these things and going, okay. They're putting in, even though they may be telling you this is what the processor is on there, this is what the data rate is, they could be fudging these numbers, and you're going, because here's the thing, if I look at it and I go, okay, the data rate's only this, Jesus, that's really slow. And look at the camera on it, it's only like a 1.2 or 1.6 meg. Oh my God. So you don't expect much from it, and that's what they want you to think.
Exactly, but it's clear to me that these images have been resized down from a much larger image. It's absolutely obvious. Because it's exactly the same techniques that they use with the Mars images. Exactly the same. So it's nothing. It's just a different subject. It's a different planet, but they are doing the same thing. But the idea of turning the image and having all these blocks and compression lines going diagonally is a new one on me. I haven't seen that.
Neither have I. So I've seen that, and then when I watched your video, I go, "Son of a bitch!" That's the same thing I've seen. And I'm looking, I'm going, now is it possible? Like I said, did they rotate the image?
Yeah.
So now you'd have your vertical or horizontal.
Yeah, these are layered images, and they're rotating at least one of them to 45.
Oh, absolutely. They're literally, I think they had them both. And they just had it overlaid over the actual photo underneath. And again, they're trying to take the individuality out of what's actually sitting there. And like I said, that's the best way I can put it, because I'm not a professional. But I'm saying to myself, there's no way these are actual artifacts. I wholeheartedly believe those are actually put there purposely. Yeah. And over the actual CGI, the junk they're throwing over this, there's just no way. And, after I pulled out the shit, and I didn't even have to pull it out. I actually say in the beginning, guys, I'm not even going to do a thing to this photo. Check this out.
Exactly. And you can see it on the main image of Pluto with the one with the nice heart shape on it, which has been all over the press the last couple of days. I think it was published on the 14th, this one. You can see, you don't have to enhance it at all, and you can see these structures. And of course, when you really push the enhancements, you get a lot of these blocks coming out, and a lot of the blocks are probably where the image has been obfuscated by NASA, but there are some there which show up before you do anything, and I think some of them are actually real structures. But this is probably precisely why they're doing it, is to confuse the eye and throw us off.
It's exactly what they're doing. It's just one of their. It's just one of their techniques that they like to do. It's just one of the things to screw, because patterns could mess with your eyes in a big way, and that's a fact. So if they figure, if they put a bunch of these patterns in there, you're just gonna go, yeah, man, it looks like artifacts. It looks like compression artifacts, and you just go whatever, and you move on.
That's what they're hoping you think. But we can find the way through these things, and they do miss stuff as well. So, and I'm sure in the images coming up soon of Pluto and Charon, we're going to get some much bigger, larger format images. It may be a while; it could be months before we get the full size ones, if we ever get them. But we should get some larger ones and some more close up detail. So I'm sure we're going to find some stuff. I'm absolutely sure. And having seen your most recent video, I mean that's the coolest thing I've seen so far. I mean that bridge kind of thing that goes, looks like a city and multiple structures all layered, and a huge, great big like road bridge or something going round. I mean that's just insane.
Well, I mean, I don't even know what to make of it. I mean, the only conclusion I can come up to is they have structures. I mean, it's 50-mile area.
Yeah, they're big.
60 miles.
They're just very large, and if this with a low gravity like it has there, I mean, it would be possible to build massive structures.
Oh yeah, you can build them miles high as opposed to feet. So,
exactly.
And the other thing is too, it's like when you and I don't know when I'll put this video out as far as that Charon. I'm not sure when I'll put that one out. But I might put it out maybe Sunday, Monday, something like that, to give these people time to look at the other one. And when we put this one up,
give it a few days is probably best. Yeah, that's what I usually do.
I usually space them out, so this way here, everybody gets a chance to watch each one and not just jump over one into the other. And the thing is, it's like, I don't know how many photos I can tell you that every time I just start off, it's just a simple thing. Let me just start doing it. What the hell is that? I had that WTF moment, like, oh my God. Because you're just going, you're not expecting to find a thing. You're just not. You're just thinking it's going to be probably compression garbage, or it's going to be whatever, or it's going to be a rock, depending on the picture you're looking at. And I'm just going, probably nothing. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Holy shit. And it's like, and this is one of them. This moon caught me off guard big time. I did not think in a million years I'd find the crap that I found in this thing. And I'm going, I seen that you had done it. I already started enhancing it. And I'm saying, wait a minute. Let me really get into this thing.
It's like
after I did, I was like, whoa.
It's like digging for treasure. You never quite know what you're going to find.
Nope.
Until you actually do it. And often I've got lots of material where I've looked for stuff, and I know there's something there, but it's not really clear enough. So I haven't even published it. People think I just publish everything I find. I don't. I've got tons of stuff that I haven't published because it's not quite clear enough, or not big enough, or whatever. But you do get an eye for this after a couple of years doing this stuff, 2 or 3 years, and you know what to look for and where to go. If you see something, you think, well, that doesn't look quite right, and you can usually tell where they fudged it or smudged it or whatever, and you get a feel for it after a while, and that's it, and that's what I love. It's a highly addictive thing to do because you never know quite what you're going to find.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get lucky and you find a massive structure, and this is one of the best I've seen actually in recent months. This one you've just found, and I'm just looking forward to the next load of images that come through now.
Oh yeah, I mean I
can't wait.
I don't think we're going to see too many of the moon, Charon. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of that one coming up. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot more obfuscations and a lot of manipulation. You're going to see a lot more of it. Because what I found in that thing, I never in a million years, I never thought, even on Pluto itself, I'm saying, well, just what the hell. And I'm going, this is manipulated big time, as usual, just like the ones on Mars, same damn way. And I'm saying, I'm not falling for this crap. And I started going to town on it, and I'm going, what the hell is that? And again, I mean, and I tell people in the video, don't go thinking it's structures like we have here. People assume, that's not a house. What the? Why would it be a house? Why do people make the assumption that it's going to be their architectural structures are going to be just like ours? What makes you think it's going to be just like it? How do you know that? But I don't know. I mean, they can't be. Think about it. You got to think. What would be the easiest thing to make? A box.
Yeah. A rectangle.
That's the easiest design going. I mean, as opposed to a nice flashy dome, or something that's going to take more to support it. So I'm thinking, I mean, I was just like, what the hell is that? And you can see like a bunch of little things all over inside the middle of this complex. I'm going to call it. There's a bunch of little things in it, and I'm just going. I don't know what it is, but it's there.
Yeah.
And
it looks like a city complex of some sort, or some kind of huge a whole bunch of structures, all kind of layers.
In one area.
Yeah, all layers, all different layers there.
And it's like I explained in this other video I did about Pluto's moon. I'm saying, there's a lot of these what look like maybe structures, but I go understand we're X amount of thousands of miles away. I think it was like 496, was it? On that photo, that particular photo, for the moon, and I backed and I'm saying, okay, it's way out. And I told people this. I said, keep in mind, just like I've said long ago, you might see this what looks like you go, wow, that has to be a huge structure because it's got a scale, and you go, man, that's got to be huge. No. It could be 10 to 20 structures in that one little area.
Yeah.
But it looks like a big blob. Because you're so far out, you're not going to see these fine details. You're just not going to see it. You're going to see things combined. I've done this in a video about Manhattan Island.
Yeah,
where I purposely blurred it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, what looked like 5-10 structures turned into one big one that looked like an L shape.
Exactly. They start to blend together.
Yeah, they all start to come together until you get closer and closer and closer, and then all of a sudden, it's like this microphone. It looks, when you look at it, you can see all the little fine bits in it, but the second you go out like this,
it's just one big thing. Yeah, exactly.
It looks like it's exactly one piece of gray as opposed to multiple, layers of steel. It's insane. I mean, some of the things I've seen in these photos lately, and I'm just going, whoa, crap. But
yeah,
we're actually going on 3 hours.
Yeah, so I was just thinking that it's getting quite late here. It's been awesome talking to you, Chris.
Yeah.
Great stuff. I'm really looking forward to, like I said, some more Pluto images and more images of the Charon and everything else. I'm sure we're going to find some stuff. Absolutely sure of it.
Well, what we'll do is just hang on for a minute or two more. We'll just go ahead and we'll just end the recording itself. And then we'll just go from there. I'll talk to you for a couple minutes. But anyway, definitely good talking to you. We're definitely either going to get you on we're going to try to get you on a broadcast, or
that'd be great. Yeah.
We'll do some more updates as far as like more news that we're doing, so on and so forth, and we'll have you on again one way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. I will join you. I will be going on holiday in about a week and a half time to Spain for about 10 days. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do a broadcast, I might be able to join you after that or before that or something. But yeah, I'll definitely try and make the next broadcast. That'd be cool.
All right, definitely.
Awesome
right,
stuff.
Man. Appreciate you getting on there. I know it's late for you. It's probably going on about 5 in the morning for you. So
it's almost 5 now.
Yeah, so it's pretty late. So I appreciate you getting on there with me, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
All right, man.
Nice one, Chris.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.